I'm sorry.
This is.
Yes, ma'am, we're going.
Good evening, everyone. This is pre-session, and does anyone have anything? Go to the order.
I need to pass along to everyone the after-action report on the Rocky Mountain Metropolitan Airport Community Noise Roundtable. It was, of course, begun with public comments, and there were some incorrect things said about Westminster, but they were cleared up. The really requests we sent to them were not passed out to the membership. Even though they got them on Thursday or Friday of last week, they were not passed out. The membership hasn't had any time to feed back. So the status of our requests is up in the air still. As the meeting progressed, we spent a major amount of time on the budget. And this group wants to spend over $100,000 on consultants. And when I passed along our concern about the value we get for these consultants, it really did not have an impact on the group. There was no back. A couple of the members of the group are extraordinarily disappointed with their participation, specifically Boulder County Commissioner District 3, Mr. Jones. He's been an active participant for 2 years, and he's a great advocate of a really facilitator, and he feels that it's just been ignored. And they're going to spend their money on a VFR. They want to spend their money on a VFR consultant and an aviation consultant. But the divisions on the group are just all the way to the ground, all the way to the ground. And at the end of the meeting, he basically openly stated, publicly stated, that he thought the group was nothing but a buffer to protect the Jefferson County Board of Commissioners. So, and the other truly disappointed person is council member Maxine Most out of really Louisville. She basically, I had an email conversation with her, and she's very disappointed in the results of the group. Jefferson County Board of Commissioners is the only authority over that airport. This CNR is just an advisory group. And to me, it was a matter of, they just want our money. Because it would still be the $12,000, $13,000 for 2023. They just want our money. Our obligation to our residents, I think I passed along a couple of the requests that I've heard from residents. And I think our council would be more than willing to really request CDHP to look at the lead issue and to request the Board of Commissioners publish what their long-range plan for the airport is. Because there's a great deal of mistrust. Many people feel that if they published publicly their plan for the future, then it would show all the things they want to do, which would change the whole noise profile of the airport. And remember, they're not doing anything wrong according to the FAA. There are no noise violations. All of the isobars of maximum noise fall on the property of the airport and stuff like that. So I wanted to bring to this board, I don't think we should participate because I don't think we're going to get anything for our really residents. I think, well, the divisions on the board are so deep that even if they got just, a facilitator, that wouldn't heal the wounds. Because really, in effect, all the complaints are going to the electeds of Broomfield, Superior, Lafayette, Louisville, and Erie, and Boulder County, of course. but the vast majority of economic advantage is going to the Jefferson County side, a little bit to Broomfield, of course, and a little bit to us. But it's like a really irresolvable problem. You were listening too, Mayor, so give us your thoughts on it.
Well, I apologize. We didn't see you on there, and when they asked, or they were doing roll call, I was as just a person coming in to watch, so I couldn't unmute myself. So I texted Tracy and said, I'm here. If you don't see Bruce, I said, I didn't hear from him, so I'm sure he's coming. Just keep watching. And they said, well, we'll elevate you until we see him. And so then when I saw you on, I said, Bruce is here, so take me back to where I can't come on or anything. So I did listen to the whole thing. And yes, it was interesting. Whoever made the accusation, well, there were a couple towards us, which says we've probably rattled a few cages because the target was on us today. They haven't paid their dues, so why can they say anything?
I think that was in public comment.
Was it?
And that's why he was misinformed. Like really later on.
Yeah,
people-
then he,
I mean, the
yeah.
board members actually said, oh no, Westminster's
yeah,
paid.
and it was Lafayette that hasn't paid their dues yet. So it was just interesting. And I know when you asked about the 3 things that we had shared in our letter when we came back, and it was obvious with the dead silence that I don't even know that anybody knows what we asked. So
I don't think they did because Ben, Miller did not send it out.
okay. So Mayor Pro Tem, how do you get things on the agenda? That's what we need to get that on the agenda for next time, and they see it in an amount of time. And we need to word it so with a little honey of we're trying to be proactive. We're trying to figure out what would work best for all of our citizens. And one of those is having the same information, no matter which website they go to, and list our things. So I don't know how you get something on an agenda.
I don't either. We've come up with mostly because we've never asked to have something put on agenda, so never had to cross that
I
bridge.
don't know if the staff know how to put something on the agenda.
Teresa
Teresa
Bucco.
Bocco, Policy and Budget Coordinator, and liaison to the Rocky Mountain Noise Roundtable. I believe it's to Mr. Miller. He does all of the administrative support for the roundtable. I can check with him and verify that and let him know we'd like to have the letter that was sent to the chair last week put on next month's agenda for discussion.
Yeah, and in a positive way that we're just thinking if we're all have the same information, it's not confusing to our residents.
I will relay.
I mean,
that.
it's not a threat because somebody said, what did they say? We don't do what somebody wants us to do, or just you don't join on a list of criteria or something. And I'm going, gosh, they're just, I knew it was a full moon because it was one of those days.
Must be it.
Everybody saw orange instead of green, so.
Teresa, is that something that we could get on like a Westminster letterhead with our names as you do other
Absolutely,
legislative policy
yes.
things?
We can resend that as a letter. with the mayor's
Yeah, just some finesse, because I
Okay.
think the way it comes across is request of Westminster. That was like the number one thing. I know that it was a cut and paste from what we had thrown together, but if we could just kind of word it as far as like we're approaching this in a collaborative manner, and in order to do that, we need to ensure that everyone is on the same page. And here's how we propose that we can work together. Here's some requests of Westminster, and then list what should be on the website as a starting point. Obviously, it would change per municipality. Not change, but have an addition to municipalities and their input. But if we could get it more formalized, I don't think, and to be fair, I don't think 4 days notice for an agenda item is appropriate. So I wouldn't expect it to be, have anyone have looked at it. So if we could formalize that, that way they have a whole month and then we can reapproach that
We
next month.
will put it on letterhead, and Mayor, you'll get to see it before you have your electronic signatures attached, and then we'll get that over to them as soon as possible.
And thank you. And I'm assuming you were the one that texted us real quick that we had paid?
I was letting Cody Miserb know
Oh, okay.
that.
I
so
didn't
that,
see
yeah,
any, it just had a phone number and I didn't know who that was. So I just said thanks because and it was getting taken care of. And can you tell us who Ben Miller is? Who does he belong to?
He belongs to Jefferson County Airport, and I believe he's a direct report to Mr. Anslow. His title is planner, more technical than that, but it's planner in there. And he's been a part since the IGA was put together, and generally handles the administrative support for the.
So then they were talking today about electing officers.
Right, at the next meeting.
So who's chair this year? Because it seems as if Ben is, because he runs the meeting.
It's Mr. Lasis is the chair for the elected body, that is the actual voting members. Is the chair of the roundtable right now.
So he doesn't really run the meeting, the chair. Interesting. Okay.
And I didn't say how we voted. There was a vote as to whether to approve the budget. So I voted no for Westminster, along with the Boulder County Really Commissioner and the representative out of really Louisville. It was a 3-5 vote.
And that was to increase the dues.
Yeah, increase the dues and make the budget $150,000, $140,000, whatever it is.
Can you just remind me, what is the VFR?
VFR stands for
Visual
Visual Flight Rules.
Yeah.
And that applies to all flights except for those done in terrible weather or poor visibility conditions or large aircraft. So even on a perfect day, one of these 737s would land according to IFR, and those are controlled by the airport and all the controllers, FAA controllers, and
flight
they're told
rules.
exactly what route to fly, and they have to follow. They have in routes and out routes that run as extensions of the two runways there. So there's no control over those. They account for about 25% of the traffic. Visual flight rules account for everyone else. But a vast majority of that is from the aviation schools at the site. So they fly in tow nuts around as they do touch and goes, or I guess the major practice area, which is not a defined or mandated thing, but the major practice area that most schools use are straight up 287 into that emptier part of Boulder County. And so that's why Louisville and Lafayette get so much of the complaints.
And they talked about Longmont and,
Well, that's
Remember.
because the noise really committee, the one that really Commissioner Jones was so upset about, we had met earlier and we had set up that we wanted that we requested outbound traffic from the aviation schools go up on the east side of 287 and inbound traffic come on the west side, trying to fly over open space and vacant ground and stuff like that. And of course, once the plane enters this 3-mile, 4-mile radius around the airport, then they're under the control of the tower, which again is an FAA staffed thing, and they fall completely within control of the tower and must strictly obey all the orders they get. But basically, once they get out of that radius, then they can do whatever they want to. But the whole beta, they call it a beta test, was to try to ensure safety and yet separate them so they could have less noise impact, get them as high as we can, because again, over the whole area runs into FAA space. We just have a sandwich of airspace between the ground and 8,000 feet or 7,000 feet, something like that, because from 8 to 12,000 feet, staple, DIA mandates everything.
thank you. So here's my best read of everything. I know there's going to be some changes in some of the smaller cities because they had elections and different, people are going to be taking over. My thought is just take a deep breath, and I think we try to get through the next couple of months and see if we can, with a little honey on the path, make some headway and get some conversations going. Because if that doesn't happen, I think the whole thing could just implode. It's obvious,
Well, it's obvious.
others
with-
are speaking
with
up. finally.
Basically, two of those personalities, yes, they're completely dissatisfied with it. If we stay after the first, aren't we obligated to pay the dues?
Isn't the dues June to June? So the big pay increase doesn't happen until next June. The 13,000 or 12,000 or whatever. So, yes, sir.
Well, and because I thought that that was what the group agreed to, being us, that we wanted to give them that time up until we would have to pay that due to see if we made any movement and then decide whether or not we wanted to stay or go.
Okay, as long as we're not on the hook for that, because it's also my opinion that, because again, the Jefferson County Board of Commissioners runs that place, and just from the body language at the airport, okay, I mean, the Commissioner Kraft, Roy Tharp was there, she was the boss. At the previous meeting, she was just there in really video, and sort of Mr. Anslow was the boss, but just the body language, she was the boss. Jeffco runs that airport, and that airport does what the Jeffco really commissioners want. And if they get to spend our money to do goofy experts, they don't care. But if they had to spend their own money to do experts, it might raise the importance of the information the experts get. But right now, I think they just waste their money.
One interesting thing that she's doing is she is going to copies on porches that are in the flight pattern, and people have asked, well, you come and try to talk and sit here and whatnot. So I'm anxious to hear how that goes. I did that with the Weston when they had the band and we couldn't sit out on our deck, and the front, you could hear people exactly their conversations from the Weston in my front yard better than the backyard. And Tim O'Byrne didn't believe it. I said, come on over, come and sit on my deck. And he goes, oh my God. And then we went in the front yard and he says, I had no idea, and shut everything down very quickly. So you sometimes do have to invite people to your home so they understand what you're living with. So I just am anxious to hear what she has to say.
Absolutely.
But I've told you guys that where my husband's, where he goes to his doctor for his infusions for his arthritis, it is in that Rock Creek area. And I'm sitting there knitting in my happy zone. I wasn't thinking airports, but the windows are down because it's a nice day. And I'm telling you, it is different than my backyard that I'm in a flight pattern with, the same airport. But I think it's because they have the hills like this and they have their buildings. It just keeps bouncing off of everything. And that was I wasn't there to test anything. I was just trying to knit.
It's there. Well, it's interesting too, because I thought some of the agenda item things were more the choices of the dissatisfied members almost place obstacles in, like the whole thing about landing fees. Okay. I think the advocates of landing fees know if they have landing fees economically, it'll push the flight schools away. That's just the way economics works. And Anslow was absolutely adamant about no landing fees because he knows the economics of landing fees too. Then there's this whole Part 150 report, and it was interesting how, I mean, the majority sort of stuffed both the Part 150 report and the landing fees. They just erased it completely and just made it a pile of money. So there's real conflict on the board.
To the point that we got to the last two items and we were out of time and people were starting to leave. And so I just think you're asking good questions. and you ask them with a little honey on them. So it's not intimidating, and we just keep that. We try to get our stuff on the agenda for next time. Maybe even, I don't know if Tracy Kraft-Tharp has any agenda planning. I don't know who meets to put the agenda together, but to me, that's the first thing, is we should all at least be speaking the same thing. But thanks, you did good.
Well, our half hour too.
Does anybody have anything else? Not here.
I'll do a quick follow-up on CML. I did send out an email on that. Carl Municipal League Policy Committee meeting on Friday morning, and I appreciate very much that policy and budget staff got out a recap of that for us, and how the meeting was broken down into two parts. There was requests from CML member cities. It was all cities, no other groups, that for some legislation that they would like to initiate or have initiated, and where our stance would be on that. And then there was also action items to update the current CML policy, legislative policy, similar to what our policy is. A lot of it is the pillar is home rule, local control. And so there was most everything that came out was we could be very supportive of, as far as some of the city initiated legislation. And there was only one that was action item that was definitely opposed, because it would very much overrule city home rule in many instances too. And I did send out an email too, is that there was this, a request from City of Louisville and the town of Superior on some legislation around homeowners insurance. And so based on the way this was written, it does fit into our policy guidelines or our priorities in a broad term. I did offer, I made a comment during the meeting that's where Westminster stands, and that's where I voted for on that. But I did, there was some terminology that was being used that is very misunderstood. And they're looking at having a subcommittee on that. And I offered my services on that, because there's some concerns on here that there's some confusion on what the unintended consequences would be severe for the marketplace, and actually put those people in a worse spot. So we'll see what comes of that.
I guess we better go get set up.
Mayor, I should note, we did not ask or read in an executive session for pre-meeting, as it was not needed tonight. So just for any of the public who's following along with our agendas, there wasn't one, and we didn't call for one.
Thanks. Okay.
Fire up the cameras.
October 10th, 2022. Please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Counselor Baker,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Demott,
Present.
Counselor Emmons,
Present.
Counselor Izadi,
Here.
Mayor McNally.
Here.
Counselor Numella. Here. Counselor Seymour.
Here.
That brings us to consideration of minutes of September 26, 2022. Counselor Emmons,
I move to approve the minutes of the September 26, 2022 meeting as presented.
Second.
Mayor Pro Tem, seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. That brings us to proclamations, and I think Counselor Baker, you were doing it. And while they're coming down, I heard from Miss Sherry that she is sick, and this is the first time in many years she's not going to be here. So when she gets the photo, she's photocopying herself in. Yeah, Photoshop.
Well, it is my of the pleasure to read, the
Hang on 1 second. They're
proclamation.
working on the microphone, sorry. Okay, try.
Shall we try again?
There you are.
All right. Well, it is my of the pleasure to read, the proclamation celebrating Fire Prevention Month?
Yes, sir.
Fire Prevention Month. I'm sure the people in the front are strangers to all of us, but please introduce yourselves.
Jim Gagliano.
Derek Menard.
Bob Hose. Eric Burke.
So let's get right to the proclamation, shall we, gentlemen? Whereas in 2021, the United States had an estimated 3,800 civilian fire of the fatalities and nearly 14,700 civilian injuries and over $15.9 billion in property loss due to fires. And whereas in 2021, the City of Westminster Fire Department responded to 14,377 emergency alarms, including 50 building fires, and the city had $4,263,164 in building and contents loss due to the structure fires. And whereas in 2021, the City of Westminster had no citizens who died from fire, but had 5 citizens injured from fire. And whereas fire prevention should be of concern to every Westminster citizen. And whereas the City of Westminster Fire Department depends on joint commitment and effort involving all citizens as well as firefighters to really promote fire safety. And whereas the Westminster Fire Department has, established a public education program that works to educate citizens on the hazard of fire and life safety. And whereas the National 2022 Fire Prevention Week theme is Fires Won't Wait, Plan Your Escape. And NFPA's 100th anniversary year effectively serves to remind all of us of the simple actions we can take to stay safe from fire during the Fire Prevention Month and year round. Therefore I, Nancy McNally, Mayor of the City of Westminster, Colorado, and on and on behalf of the entire city council and staff, hereby proclaim the month of October as Fire Prevention Month in, the city of Westminster, and urge all really citizens to really heed, the importance of safety messages of the Fire Prevention Month in 2022, and to really support the many public safety messages, activities, and efforts of the City of Westminster's Fire Department, signed on this 10th day of October, 2022. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Add anything?
I'm sure. Well, I would just like to thank Council for recognizing this month as our Fire Safety Month. That this has been going on for over 100 years. This all stems back to about 1871 from the Great Chicago Fire. And with many lost lives, the United States decided that we needed to get a handle on this and started fire prevention through the NFPA. And this has been going on for about 100 years. And each year, we come up with NFPA comes up with a catchphrase to make it simple. This year that fire can't wait, plan your escape, promoting 2 ways to escape a fire from your home and other safety measures to take. And we talk about replacing batteries, candle safety, and so on. So this month, we really focus on public education. Our fire marshal, Jim Gagliano, and Sherry Guerrero really do a great job with our team, and a lot of contacts throughout the city this month. So we focus on it all year, but we just want to thank Council tonight for this recognition.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Good evening.
You too.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Chief. Bob.
That brings us to public comment. Do we have people that signed up?
We do. Thank you, Mayor. We have 3 individuals who signed up to speak tonight and also 1 voicemail that we played at the end. The first speaker is Chris Jones.
And as Chris is coming down, can I ask Christopher, are you going to stick around for a few minutes? Welcome.
Hello. Thank you very much for your, do I start now? I've never done this before. All right, cool, sweet. Thank you very much for your time and allowing me the opportunity to speak. My name is Chris Jones, and my family and I live in Harris Park. Our oldest son attends Colorado STEM Academy, and our younger son will attend their school in a few years' time. I'd like to say that I don't believe anyone here or at the school or any of that nature is acting in bad faith. I assume people mean well and want to do what's right. That being said, I'm super frustrated with the process so far that I'm going to go through here in a bit. I brought this issue up with Counselor Obi, and I'm sorry, I don't know how to say your last name. I'm sorry. Izadi, sorry. And I've talked to several people within city government, other parents, as well as Principal Martin at the Colorado STEM Academy. Simple question. Would you let your kids walk to school with no school zone? Or like school zone flashers? So I assume the answer, everyone wants to keep their kids safe. Would you let them walk to school when there's regularly people running red lights around their school? Or even attempting to turn while they're in the crosswalk. But that's the reality for both parents and kids at Colorado STEM Academy and Hidden Lake High School, which share a campus. If you're unaware, Colorado STEM Academy and Hidden Lake are contained by the boundary of 72nd Avenue to the south, 73rd Avenue to the north, Lowell Boulevard to the west, and Irving to the east. I was told that the city was going to install static school zone signs as an immediate first step towards rectifying the issue on May 27th. On August 17th, I was told that they'd be installed in a few weeks. They're still not there. While I appreciate the initial effort around the static school zone signs, I don't think that they're sufficient, particularly given in light of them not being installed yet, as well as the overall traffic around the area. So I really do think that we need flashing signs around the school boundaries. I was told by the city that I need to talk to our principal. I was told by the principal that the city council has to kick this off. Interim city manager, Jody Andrews, has informed me that the cost will be roughly $60K for this project. and the school is expected to pay for half of that. So I guess more than anything, what's stopping this process from moving forward? How can we start keeping our kids safe? And what can we actually do to kick this off? So it's pretty evident to me that there's a need, and I just want to keep the kids safe.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Interim city manager, someone will get back to you.
Cool. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
The next speaker is Barb Kirkmeyer, please.
Thank you. Good evening, Madam Mayor and City Council members. My name is Barbara Kirkmeyer. I live at 6100 County Road 4, Brighton, Colorado. I am here tonight not as a state senator, even though I am a state senator. I'm here tonight as a candidate for Congress in Congressional District 8, which the portions of Westminster is included in. In fact, for those of you who don't know, the new congressional district essentially goes from Commerce City to Greeley, from Kersey over to Bertha, down the I-25 corridor, picks up the Adams County portion of Westminster, Thornton, North Glen, and Federal Heights. So I'm coming tonight because, well, first of all, I kind of feel like I'm back to my roots here. I served as a county commissioner for 20 years in Weld County. I had a great working relationship with the 32 municipalities that are within Weld County. We worked on economic development, transportation, public safety, emergency management, pretty much you name it, we worked on it together, had that great working relationship. As a state senator, I've been able to have, again, a really good working relationship with CML. It was interesting listening that you having a policy discussion about it. But with regard to, areas that are of concern and interest to municipalities, was able to get up and speak on behalf of municipalities, mostly because I have a pretty good understanding of local government. Hopefully, if I'm honored to be your next congresswoman or be your first congresswoman in this district, I would hope that we could have a very direct, same working type of relationship, that you feel that you can contact me, that we open up lines of communication. So that's quite frankly why I'm here tonight, is just to introduce myself and let you know who I am. Because honestly, I have never been to the Westminster City Council chambers. I've been to a lot of other ones, but I have not ever been here. I did give my card to your city clerk. It has my personal cell phone number on it. So even through after November 8th, that still will be my personal cell phone number. Please use it if there's concerns or comments or things that you just want to talk about that you feel I should know about. I would greatly appreciate it. And I'm really a lot better at texting than I am phones. So please text me at any time, but you will have my cell phone number. And thank you again. Appreciate the work that you do. It's like I said, I was looking through the agenda and you're going to be talking about budgets. Like, wow, that'd be pretty cool. But and the Fire Prevention Month, I remember doing those proclamations as well. So anyways, thank you again. And just here to introduce myself.
Thank you.
Yep.
The next speaker is Joseph Janicki.
Good evening, Council,
Good evening.
and thank you for hearing me this evening. I live in Highland Greens East, and my neighbors and I have been discussing and becoming more and more concerned about the council's drifting away from the more financially conservative philosophies that many of the candidates espoused. Sure. Okay. Good. So many of my neighbors and I have been becoming more and more concerned about the council drifting further and further away from the conservative financial philosophies that many of the candidates had espoused to. So that's my number one concern, is financial drift away from good financial conservancy. The second one is, and it's related to the first one, is the employee drift. There seems to be a slow creep of more and more employees being added to Westminster City Council, or excuse me, Westminster's employee base, that is disproportional to the change in citizens within our district. That concerns me. That's kind of a classic lazy, bloated government kind of a behavior that it doesn't end well. So those are the 2 points: budget creep and employee creep. Thank you for your time. I'd like to see it reined in.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
That is the final speaker who signed up for this evening.
Okay. And did we have any voicemails?
We do have one voicemail.
And again, interim city manager Andrew Zone will get back to you.
Yes, Mayor, thank you. We will follow up.
That's all of our list. Is there anybody in the audience that didn't get signed up that wants to say something? That brings us to report of city officials. Interim city manager Andrews.
Thank you, Mayor. I have two parts to my report tonight. First, I would like to ask Eric Otzelberger to come up and provide an update for us on Knox Court project. And then I'd like to wrap up with some comments on that. Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Manager Andrews. Mayor Pro Tem, Council. Good to see you this evening. I have a fresh update on ownership related to 7731 Knox Court. So I'll talk about that first before we talk about the asbestos abatement and cleanup. So as of 5 p.m. this evening, I received a response from the legal counsel for Ken Mcfarland Properties. As you may recall, they're the junior lien holder at Knox Court. Last week, we had offered a proposal to them in exchange for them releasing their lien on the property, and they seem amenable to that. So we will be working out details with them and proceed from there. Also last week, both other entities that had an interest in the property, that's Reverse Mortgage Funding LLC and Housing and Urban Development, both formally recorded releases of their deeds of trust with the Adams County Clerk and Recorder's Office. So out of those various property interests, two have severed their interest, and we're working on the final one. So good progress on the ownership front. As far as the cleanup goes, things continue to progress smartly there. The final phase is underway. The final containment structure, full containment, is complete. The crews all last week were removing debris from the rear of the lot. That is the final phase. They're making great progress. I mean, hopefully, fingers crossed, we can kind of see that wind down by the end of the month. I think, as I referenced before, item that we're looking to potentially address is the foundation and backfilling. We were a little uncertain. We knew it wasn't going to be a good condition, but what condition the foundation would be in. Now that all the debris is removed, there's significant damage to that foundation. And in fact, last week, the contractor took two gigantic pieces that were more or less severed from the explosion. So significant damage, and regardless of what happens in the future with that property, something's going to have to be solved with that foundation. So we're looking at what it's going to take to remove that and then fill it in, so whatever the plans are for the future can proceed without that hanging over this lot. So that is my update, and we'll just happy to field any questions if there are any.
Just getting the pictures that you've shared with us, when you see pieces of foundation, that had to have been one heck of an explosion. It's just amazing. So thank you again for all your work and partnerships and working with everybody. You've done a great job.
Well, thank you, and Mayor and Council. It started with your support and your actions, and we'll keep moving forward here. But we're in good shape. This is progressing well. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Otzelberger. Mayor Pro Tem, City Councilors. Tonight marks my last City Council meeting as your City Manager, and I would like to take this opportunity to thank you for your support and leadership over the past 11 months, and in particular for your faith in me to help lead this city through this very important transition. While I didn't anticipate that I would be serving as City Manager for what will soon be a full year, it has been an honor and privilege to work for City Council and this remarkable community to deliver historic milestones for our city. Although I'm here with you every Monday night, the work of the city is done by the hundreds of dedicated city employees who have worked tirelessly through this transition to achieve our mutual successes. I have enjoyed the opportunity to work side by side with them through this transition, and I'm absolutely confident in saying that we would not be here without them. Some of the successes we have achieved under City Council's leadership includes establishing a new city vision, mission, and strategic plan that is linked for the first time to key performance indicators. Under your leadership, we made city government more transparent, more welcoming, and more open to our residents and businesses. We continue to receive very positive feedback and thanks from businesses and community members for reopening City Hall on Fridays at no additional cost to our taxpayers. We also received strong and positive feedback for making the City Council agendas available 2 weeks ahead of City Council meetings and for posting all our presentation materials in advance of meetings. This increased transparency has helped keep our community better informed and engaged in the critical decisions coming before you. Also under your leadership, we have refocused on core city services, and this has been energizing and affirming for the entire leadership and staff team. Following an early reallocation of $2.2 million in city manager's office and leadership positions to fund much needed streets maintenance and support for our police department and homelessness response, the proposed city budget for 2023 reflects our continued commitment to core services. The proposed budget reflects a better alignment of resources for streets infrastructure, more investment in public safety, specifically our police and fire departments, and other important core services that impact our community's quality of life. With City Council's leadership, we also created a new comprehensive response to homelessness. Westminster's Continuum of Compassion approach is working, and I believe it is a model for our neighboring communities. I would also like to comment on our foundational work on water in Westminster. Through sound fiscal modeling with your direction and oversight, we lowered water rates for all ratepayers to provide immediate financial relief for our community, while also planning ahead for a new water treatment facility and other key capital investments. We will soon be coming back to you with very viable options for Westminster's replacement water treatment facility, supported by the current water rate proposal before you tonight. We've accomplished a few years' worth of work in the past year, and I'm honored to have had the ability to work for City Council to improve the quality of life for our community members and businesses. Finally, I can tell you that I have been working very closely with Westminster's new city manager, Mark Freitag, and our work together will ensure a smooth and efficient transition. We have a robust 90-day plan in place, starting with Mr. Freitag's arrival on October 24th, and our entire leadership and staff team is ready and excited to welcome Mr. Freitag aboard. With that, Mayor, I conclude my comments for this evening. Thank you.
And with that, Council and City Manager Andrews, would you meet us down?
It's a surprise.
I could see that. Yeah, that's not a surprise.
We have a proclamation for you tonight, and it is from all of councilors sending me email of their thoughts of what you've meant to them. And so Councilor Azadi is going to start.
Hi, Jody. Surprise! Whereas Mr. Jody Andrews has demonstrated his commitment and dedication to the City of Westminster over his decade of service, including this past year as interim city manager, and
whereas Mr. Andrews has set a high standard for accountability, fairness, and responsiveness to our residents, businesses, city staff, and council, and
whereas Mr. Andrews has worked with the City Council to deliver the new vision for the city and to understand our community's needs, he also works with a positive attitude and a genuine care for our community, and
whereas Mr. Andrews' energy and enthusiasm for making government open and accessible to the public has been a breath of fresh air.
Whereas Mr. Andrews has led the city through this transitional period with grace, integrity, and optimistic leadership.
Now therefore, I, Nancy McNally, Mayor of the City of Westminster, on behalf of the entire City Council and staff, do hereby proclaim our sincere and heartfelt appreciation to Mr. Jody Andrews' leadership and service to our city, signed this 10th day of October, 2022.
Thank you.
Anything else from council members? Yeah. Councilor Emmons?
Thank you. I just wanted to commend staff and their outreach to the community on October 4th. Attended with a community meeting with Mayor Pro Tem Mayor and Councilor Seymour, the Westminster Hills Open Space community, I don't want to say forum, but it kind of was. It was a dialogue. It was a discussion on creating solutions and ways that we could be proactive in helping reduce concerns with neighbor. But it was a great discussion. A lot of creative talk came out of that from our community members, and staff was willing and open, all ears. Not only did we have about 30 people in person, but we had about 100 people listening online and providing questions there as well. So I just wanted to say thank you for that proactive engagement, and I look forward to many more meetings on trying to find solutions, not only with this community concern, but across our city. So thank you. There was also one other thing that I wanted to thank Mr. Andrews for. One of my items that I wrote in was I stand firm in the belief that you miss 100% of the shots that you don't take, and that we would accomplish many more things if we didn't think of them as impossible, which are quotes from the great Wayne Gretzky and our legend, Vince Lombardi. We can learn much from our past, but as long as we believe and execute the work within ourselves, we become unstoppable. And I believe that there's great work and great strengths for you in your future. So thank you for sticking with us and helping with the transition. You're a great asset.
Councilor Baker?
Thank you, Mayor. We are in the budget time and the budget of the processing. In really January of 2022, our new city council placed stewardship and thrift as guiding principles in our strategic plan. It is reasonable to expect council would move toward those goals. While I wanted to move toward those goals immediately and reduce the 2022 budget, there was no immediate need because Westminster was 120 to 100 FTDs short, so we were already saving money. For the 2023 budget, Councilor Seymour and I suggested we use a zero-based budget process beginning in 2023 with a couple of chosen departments. When that course of action was declined, I basically suggested arbitrarily set reductions, such as cut 150 FTEs or really reduce the budget by 15%. I wanted to reduce the size of Westminster city government. However, when my request that council give to staff guidance about what council desired in our budget was really declined, I began to worry if our goals of stewardship and thrift as smaller city government would be achieved. Fortunately, after months of work by a dedicated team, the results was an increased government and budget. Today, we have another public hearing about our 2023 budget. Council has a plan proposed to expand the size of city government to over 1,100 FTEs. There is no reason for this expansion. The strategic plan boldly claims of our desire for stewardship and thrift with our money. This of the proposed wasteful budget has made our promises to our citizens of little value. Many citizens will basically certainly call the unfulfilled promises misleading, and some will be far more harsh. Our proposed budget makes Westminster a wasteful, bloated city government when compared to other Colorado cities of the same size. Using, the latest Colorado required 2021 annual comprehensive financial information, west of the Minster had in 2021 1,074 full-time employees to serve our 116,000 citizens. Compare that to Arvada in 2021. Adjusting their 703 reported FTEs to include a fire department, which they do not have, puts them at 846 FTEs to serve 121,000 citizens. And then we can compare that to of the Pueblo in 2021 with 797 FTEs for their 111,000 citizens. West of the Minster is a wasteful, bloated government when compared to our own past. In 2012, we had 911 FTEs for a population of 108,000 citizens, which soared to 1,074 FTEs in 2021 and is planned in 2023 to be over 1,100 FTEs for 118,000 citizens. This is an over 20% increase in city jobs or a less than 10% increase in our population. Lots of really unaffiliated and Democrats see this waste in government and want it changed. Well, the difference in the number of government employees can't be justified by having better or more services. And while I know Westminster is the best of the best in everything we do, a look at other average city shows some interesting comparisons. Arvada has fewer police and less crime. Both, the Pueblo has 10 fire stations versus our 6. Both Arvada and Pueblo have more miles of streets. And wouldn't it make sense if we have the best of the best employees, they would be more, productive than those average guys and be able to do the job with less people? Council needs to live up to our promises of stewardship and thrift. Of the proposed budget does not live up to them. We can do better. Thank you, Mayor.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Thank you, Mayor. I'll reserve my comments for the budget for when we talk about the budget. But I did want to talk about a handful of events that I attended. I know I mentioned last week that the mayor and I, and as well as some staff, spent some time with some staff in the Ridgway family when they did a tree planting. For those of you who don't know, it's been 10 years since the Jessica Ridgway situation in our city. A lot of flashbacks for me. That's what got me involved in this. She was my daughter's friend. And so even hearing somebody come tonight who wants to do something better for their school, excuse me. For those of you who don't know, I started as a PTA president. And through that event,
the mayor reminded me, my first call was to the mayor when I was in that position. So not to get myself too choked up, but it's a good reminder of what a community can do in bad times. In those times, we weren't Republicans, we weren't Democrats, we were neighbors. And I think that those moments when we reflect on them are really important for us to go back to those moments and remember what community is really about, and what city government is really about. I saw the men and women of our police and fire departments, our parks departments step up and look out for my community when that happened. I was honored to be able to join the mayor in Tri-City Baptist Church as they did, I'm trying to think what the right term, Faith and Blue Day on Sunday, where they honor our first responders, our police officers. That was a great event. It was a great event run by a church in our community who wanted to honor our men and women in law enforcement. They talked about the Ridgeway event. And for those of us who lived it, including I know that church donated different things. It's just a good reminder of what those folks do and really what our tax dollars go to take care of our communities. I know the mayor and I got to check. If you haven't been to the Ridgeway Park, I recommend you go. There's a ribbon there that has different names of people who donated. I know Mayor McNally and her husband's name is on there. Atkins Nutrition, who was my employer at the time, their name is on there. I know neighborhood kids who gave, like my daughter gave her piggy bank to make that park happen. It's just a good reminder for folks to remember, what community is. And the other event that I wanted to mention that also has crossover for me is they did the Sliders and Ciders for Ralston House. Ralston House is a organization that we have an IGA with some other cities who basically serve children to do forensic interviews when they're in the worst place in life. And the police station is not the place for those kids to have to relive something that has to be told so that they can get justice. And they basically have a very welcoming environment where kids go into a house, they have toys and all sorts of different things. And they allow those children who have been through some sort of assault or seen assault to be able to tell their story and get justice. I met them through the Ridgeway situation. So as hard as it is for me to talk about some of this stuff, I think it's good for the community to remember those things, remember why we have those relationships in the city of Westminster, because they stemmed out of something really bad. And I want to just take a moment and remember that situation, thank all the people who work for the city of Westminster, both then and now, and through the process, and say how much I appreciate what you do for our community.
Councilor Seymour.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Also, not to step on the mayor's comments, but on Thursday, the mayor and I had an opportunity. Westminster is a great place to do business and to thrive. Businesses are thriving and looking for the right kind of employee base. And so we had an opportunity Thursday morning to be at Trimble up in the Westmore Office Park area. And Trimble, a 12,000 person company that started in somebody's garage. I guess I should start a business garage. I mean, it seems to work well for some of these, but I have no tech skills, so that won't work. But Trimble made the decision to move their worldwide headquarters to their Westminster office building, and it was a great event. They now know how they can get all their employees to come in. You feed them a great breakfast, and everybody shows up that day. And so it was fabulous to see all the employees got an opportunity to meet their CEO and some of their executive team, but more importantly, we got to see some of the great technology that they're developing that helps our farmers use less pesticide and be more efficient in that and not waste money, and how they affect the construction industry in many ways. And one of the things, we walked up on this little model racetrack, and I thought, well, yeah, what's the big deal about that? We used to do that too. Well, they have these little hats on and they're racing the cars with their minds. And so that was interesting. So great to have an outstanding company like Trimble. They already had the people on the ground here, and it's more than just symbolic because they want to be part of this area and part of what we do. So outstanding event to have the opportunity to join that.
And because of that, I see we have some of our EDC here. Please stand, Lindsay, and if there's anyone else that I don't know that's here. they didn't get the credit on that day. And I searched and searched for you. I had no idea you weren't invited. And I felt terrible. Why was I there and not you? You make it happen. So I was so grateful. I took lots of pictures. I did ask to take all those pictures to show the person with that thing on his head with making his brain go. It just was unbelievable. And so I'm glad at least through pictures we could share with you, but you deserve the recognition for all that you've done. So thank you. Councilor Isati? Sorry.
So I'm really excited about Trimble as well. So it's great that they're making their headquarters here, because hopefully that will attract some other headquarters. I did just also want to share that I had the opportunity to speak with some of our community members that are really struggling here in Westminster. When we think about our neighbors and our community, there are people who are really suffering, who do not have access to safe housing and to stable housing. And we've heard from a few folks who've come in and talked about the state of their housing and the need for our rental inspection program to go out and help them advocate for safer housing. It's not always a beneficial outcome, because we do have landlords that do retaliate and make it even harder to live in the homes where they're staying. So one of the things that was really disturbing to me that I heard was that we have landlords who are raising the rents in the middle of their lease timeframes. So, which, as I understand, is not legal. Once I don't know who else has rented in here, but as a renter, I think I would be pretty appalled if in the middle of my lease agreement, I'm asked to increase my rent. And some of these folks don't know that that's illegal, and they don't have any recourse or place to go. And so they end up paying it or falling in arrears. And I just want to share that experience, because we have not only smaller scale landlords that are doing this, but they are kind of covered under LLCs. So it's difficult to legally get to these landlords and talk to them and address these situations. But we also have larger rental companies with apartment complexes that are doing the same thing. And that is not okay to have predatory landlords within our community. I wanted to raise that because this is something that affects all of us, whether it's our neighbors or people who are trying to just live in the community. And I'm hoping that we can talk more about that, because this is something that is affecting a lot of people, and it's displacing people, and it's affecting their ability to live safe and secure lives here in Westminster.
Councilor Usadi?
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to also thank the Economic Development Department. My wife worked at Trimble for some years, and she still has the hat and all the outfits, and now she's working somewhere else similar, but that's a great company, and it's great to have their worldwide headquarters here. Also, to second what Councilor Mella has said, there are lots of residents, and I met with two over the weekend with two different issues. One was another resident who has a predatory landlord who is raising her rent. The other is related to the car theft issue. So car thefts, I know Mayor Pro Tem and I have brought this up. I would like an update on what we're doing and where we are with that, because that is still an issue, and it is only getting worse from the last time we brought this up. So I would like a much deeper focus on what prevention steps are we taking, what can we do with the budget, what's happening around car thefts, do we need to invest more in certain areas? What can we do to really reduce this? That's a problem, and it's impacting low-income residents the most, because when you have your catalytic converter stolen, it's $2-3 grand now. You know, with inflation and everything else and the lack of supply and all of that, just to replace it, it's more expensive than the cost of the car, and they can't afford it. So a lot of them, and it's intersectional with the housing crisis, right? So you get your car stolen, you take your next month's rent to pay for that. You go homeless, right? So we talk about crime and we talk about housing, we talk about all these different crises. Everything is connected, and these root causes really need to be solved for if we want to reduce crime in Westminster. If we want to increase quality of life, we need to do a lot more on resolving the root causes. So thanks for listening.
I saw Andy Lee when Lindsay stood up. Andy, you're hiding back there, but I just want to say thank you to you for helping us give a little bit of a surprise to Jody tonight with your well-written words, our thoughts, but thank you for all the help with doing a little something for him special tonight. Thanks. You heard everything else I've been to this week except the historical tea on Saturday. Heard a wonderful beekeeper's story. I had no idea those little creatures, all that they do and can do and what we need to do. And the big thing I left with is it's the spring in March. You need to be sure all of your spring flowers are well watered because they need that water and nectar. And it's the fall flowers. Summer flowers, yeah, they're nice, but it's the spring and fall. Spring, getting ready to do everything they do during the summer, fall, getting ready for winter and doing their thing. They're an amazing beast. And I had a little 4-year-old that was waiting to buy some honey. And I said, boy, my brain is just so full after that presentation. And he looked at me, hands on hips, and he said, it was overwhelming. So it was a great presentation, and it's fun that we have one of our own beekeepers right in the heart of historic Westminster, and he has 32 hives around the metro area. So if you live in Lakewood or somewhere else, he pulls up his app and tells you exactly which hive he needs to harvest, so you're getting the right honey. So it was a great day. If I don't see anything else, that will bring us to the consent agenda, item 8A. Councilor Emmons.
I move to adopt the consent agenda, item 8A.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Second.
Been moved and seconded to approve item 8A. Is there any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Councilor Baker?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Demott?
Yes.
Councilor Emmons?
Yes.
Councilor Izadi?
Yes.
Mayor McNally?
Yes.
Councilor Nermella?
Yes.
Councilor Seymour?
Yes.
Motion passes on a 7-0 vote.
Thank you. And that brings us to a public hearing over budget. Interim City Manager Andrews, do you have something from the staff first?
Thank you, Mayor. I will ask Mr. Chris Lindsay, our Assistant City Manager, to come up and provide some brief comments before the opening of the public hearing.
Welcome.
Thank you, Manager Andrews. Mayor Pro Tem City Council. It's my honor tonight to be in front of you regarding the adoption of the 2023 budget. We've come quite a long ways with the proposal of this budget since we started earlier this year. Tonight you have 2 items in front of you, though. First off is the public hearing. This is to allow any late-breaking public feedback and to ensure compliance with the charter requirements. And then 10C tonight is the adoption of the budget and the pay plan. Starting nearly a year ago with a new vision and a mission for the city, we started creating and crafting this proposed budget. Shortly thereafter, you worked on a detailed strategic plan that was later adopted. Certainly, this period of transition that the city has gone through has made for an interesting budget process, but I hope you'll agree that we have adapted well through this. A few of the key dates we've worked on through this budget process. In March of 2022, staff started the internal portion of the 2023 budget process. In May, June, and August, you had specific presentations on a programmatic overview of the city's budget, our capital improvements plan, and our revenue projections. You had a budget retreat in August, and then in August 31st, the proposed budget was released. We had an initial public hearing on September 12th, and then you had another review period on September 19th. The proposed budget is built upon the city's adopted strategic plan. Additionally, the budget themes that we worked on with you throughout the process were staffing aligned with strategic plan priorities, a focus on core services, and infrastructure. Some of the highlights of this budget include nearly $10 million in transportation and streets maintenance funding, implementation of 2 collective bargaining agreements, a significant investment in reducing the number of people experiencing homelessness, and over $51 million in capital improvements. I would like to thank Council for the time that you have spent on this budget and the development of this budget. And then I also wish to thank staff for the many hours that they've spent on this. The policy and budget staff behind me has eat, slept, and breathed this budget over the last few months. Lastly, I want to thank Interim Manager Jody Andrews and Deputy City Manager and CFO Larry Dorr for their leadership through this process. And lastly, while it appears that this is the end of our budget work, this is really just the beginning. It begins a lot of work to now take this and implement it over the next fiscal year as we wrap up spending this fiscal year. We look forward to this work that the residents and businesses in the community will see over the next year. Thank you.
Thank you. With that, I will open the public hearing. It is 7:55, and anybody wishing to talk to this item agenda, please step forward.
We do have one speaker who has signed up, Alan Farb. Please come forward.
Welcome.
Well, hello and good evening, and good to see you all. Let me first quote from the city's recent budget message. Much like neighboring communities, Westminster is responding to rising homelessness along the Front Range, following a continuum of compassion. The city's response to homeless services is just under $2 million, in addition to the Navigation Center, of which $1 million it appears that the city is passing on to Jefferson County rather than using that here at home. We talk about shared temporary sheltering, not sure what that is. Hotel stays when the county options are unavailable. How does this work? Basic needs to support our homeless navigator network. Transportation costs, does that mean bus passes? Does it mean Lyft service? Housing stabilization fund, what is this? Homeless navigation assessment, not sure what that is. And homeless camp cleanup, I know we have to spend on that. But I'm wondering, number one, does the city have contracts with hotels to send the homeless as necessary? Because the adults that I encounter often cannot get into hotels. I always have people asking how to get in, especially when the weather is horrible. I'm not sure the $250,000 you're setting aside cuts it. My calculations is about 2/3 of what you might need for the winter. What about people without IDs or people with pets? How are they included? Haven't heard the specifics on that. But importantly, where are the sites, the transitional shelters, the safe outdoor spaces in this city? Where are or is a permanent shelter for the single men, single women, the LGBTQ, and of course for the families? I don't really see a real compassion in your continuum of compassion. I suggest instead of the city giving the $1 million in federal funding to Jefferson County for a potential future regional homeless navigation center, that the city instead employ those funds right here in serving its growing homeless community. You can use it toward land purchase. You might even better use city-owned property that is managed by any number of NGOs. The many, many homeless people that I've encountered over the 2.5 years I've been out on the streets in this city, doing my volunteer work with them, many are asking for just a place to rest, to have an opportunity to gather themselves and prepare for a positive change in their lives. Moreover, by establishing a single point place in our community, bring that $1 million back here, don't give it just to Jefferson County, I think you would serve many purposes, including perhaps getting some of those people out of your backyards. I think if you truly want to follow the concept of a continuum of care, of compassion, what you need is the political will. That's all it takes. And I would like to see you take that $1 million, bring it back into the city, look for a permanent space that people can rest and move forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? See no one, I'll close the public hearing at 8 o'clock. And that brings us to item B1. Councilor Emmons?
I move to adopt resolution number 32, authorizing the interim city manager to execute an agreement with Adams County Open Space for the Legacy Ridge Golf Course, Windsor, and Berkshire Parks Reclaimed Irrigation Project.
Mayor Pro Tem? Been moved and seconded to adopt resolution number 32. Is there any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Mayor Pro Tem Demott,
Yes.
Councilor Emmons,
Yes.
Councilor Izadi,
Yes.
Mayor McNally,
Yes.
Councilor Nermella,
Yes.
Councilor Seymour,
Yes.
Councilor Baker.
Yes.
The motion passes on a 7-0 vote.
That brings us to item B2. Councilor Emmons?
I move to adopt resolution number 33, authorizing the interim city manager to execute an agreement with Adams County Open Space for the Swim and Fitness Center American Disability Act Accessibility Alternative Project.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to adopt resolution number 33. Is there any further discussion? Councilor Seymour? Roll call, please.
Councilor Emmons,
Yes.
Councilor Izadi,
Yes.
Mayor McNally,
Yes.
Councilor Nermella,
Yes.
Councilor Seymour,
Yes.
Councilor Baker,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Demott.
Yes.
The motion passes on a 7-0 vote.
That brings us to item B3. Councilor Emmons?
I move to pass Councilor's Bill number 46 on first reading, appropriating the Adams County Open Space Grant for the Legacy Ridge Golf Course, Windsor, and Berkshire Parks Reclaimed Irrigation Project not to exceed $1,250,306 in expenses into the Parks Open Space and Trails Fund.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to pass Councilor's Bill number 46. Is there any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Councilor Izadi,
Yes.
Mayor McNally,
Yes.
Councilor Nermella,
Yes.
Councilor Seymour,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Demott,
Yes.
Councilor Emmons.
Yes.
That brings,
Oh, go ahead. The
Sorry.
motion passes on a 7-0 vote.
that brings us to item B4. Councilor Emmons?
Move to pass Councilor's Bill number 47 on first reading, appropriating the Adams County Open Space Grant for the Swim and Fitness Center American Disability Act Accessibility Alternatives Project not to exceed $1 million in expenses into the Parks, Open Space, and Trails Fund.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Second.
Been moved and seconded to pass Councilor's Bill number 47. Is there any further discussion? I just want to say Parks and Rec, way to go. Roll call, please.
Mayor McNally,
Yes.
Councilor Nermella,
Yes.
Councilor Seymour,
Yes.
Councilor Baker,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Demott,
Yes.
Councilor Emmons,
Yes.
Councilor Izadi.
Yes.
The motion passes on a 7-0 vote.
That brings us to item C1, Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to adopt resolution number 34, establishing the 2023 pay plan.
Counselor Seymour.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to adopt resolution number 34. Is there any further discussion? Mayor Pro Tem.
I just wanted to make a couple of quick comments. We had a speaker earlier speak on the budget, as well as we had Councilor Baker make some comments on the budget, as well as I've got phone calls from some concerned community members that somebody on the council who wasn't named was telling people much of what we heard tonight about us not holding up to what our vision states as far as thrift. One of the things through the conversation when Councilor Baker has asked his points was, what do you want to cut? 150 people, $20 million of what is what I would need in order to make those cuts. There was a comment made that the staff increases aren't needed. Let me point out to the public a couple of things that have been added over the last, between the 5 years I've been here and some of the years before that, since Mayor McNally was mayor before. There was a state mandate that we have to do body cams. The city of Westminster was ahead of that curve and we put that in place. That takes technicians to do that. And being that that's new to us, that's something that we're still learning that curve. And we've realized it's a lot more work than we originally thought. And we've had to add people. And let me again remind everybody that that is an unfunded mandate through 2017 that came down from the State House in 2020. That we had to do that, but we did it ahead of time because we were looking at it anyway. But that being said, those are real people that have to do a real job. We have increased police staff over the last decade, which I think we would all agree with the rise in crime. That's probably a good thing. We have added co-responders and navigators for our homeless. The co-responders are to deal with folks who are experiencing mental health crisis. We've heard a lot from the community, both here and across the nation, that is a need that communities want, so that our law enforcement have extra resources so that if they're dealing with somebody who's in crisis, the right place for that person is with the proper professionals to get that care. And I can tell you that firsthand. Right after I was elected, my daughter ended up in handcuffs in a police car, not because the police officer was doing anything wrong, because my daughter was in a mental health crisis, and that was what we had at our disposal. The city has been ahead of the curve to look at doing things like that. So I agree that we need to be thrifty, but if we're going to cut things, we need to know what it is, because I can tell you, even if we cut $20 million or 150 people, we have a list of things as far as core services that needed care. Interim City Manager Andrews had mentioned earlier that we had made an aggressive cut into some previous growth, which the previous growth was actually 1.9 million originally. In the next year, it went to 2.2 million. We cut those funds out of high-level positions in order to put money back into co-responders, back into our streets. Things that, if you drive around the city, I certainly have heard from our community that our roads aren't what they were 5 years ago. So these things cost real money. So I think we need to have a better discussion with each other as far as dialogue. If you want to make cuts on things, we had a budget retreat. That was the proper time to say, here's the things I want to cut and what I want to get. I certainly have voted against budgets in my 5 years here. I made a big stink over a rifle program. My first couple of years here, I went in the budget and saw that we were at the time going to spend, I think it was like $425,000 on a Jumbotron. I said, that doesn't make sense to me. But I was willing to go into our budget and look and say, here's something that we don't need, in my opinion, and here is something that we do need, in my opinion. So indiscriminate cuts I will never sign up for. I need details. I need to know what you want to cut and what the trade-off is for it. Because again, we have a list of things that we are responsible for between public safety, roads, water, our parks, that the residents expect us to pay for with their tax dollars. So I will be supporting this. It's not, I don't think any one of us is ever going to get everything we want out of a budget, but I think that there's a lot of hard work, and I thank staff for this budget, and I will be supporting it.
Councilor Seymour.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Also, as far as the budget goes, when you look at it at a granular level, as we do, down to the street level, no pun intended. Our residents have said to us that we want to make sure we have great streets, sidewalks. We want to make sure the water is clean and safe, and we want to make sure the wastewater goes downhill properly. And so we have this conversation continually about capital improvement budget. Wasn't there a sinking fund for this? Haven't we been putting money away for this? And the answer is no, because past councils had made a decision that they were not going to fund that infrastructure that way. We are now seeing the results of that. And Mr. Lindsay was very emphatic about $52 million in capital improvements. That money has to be spent now, and we need the people on the ground in order to institute that so that we can get our city in the shape and the condition that our residents are demanding for us. And so, yes, is there a person here or there? Are there unfunded mandates that we get from the legislature that all of a sudden add 3 people to a department? Does Colorado Public Health come down with something and we need more inspectors to make sure we don't have dirt from sites going into our sewers? Yes. Is there anything we can do about that? Not unless we want to pay the daily fines. So we have to look at this on a line-by-line basis. And if there are issues that we need to deal with, I think we need to deal with them individually. And that's all.
Councilor Baker?
I have to agree with my colleagues. The devil is in the details, in the specifics. And unless I've missed some meetings, which I don't think I have, we haven't done that. We had a dedicated team of at least 4 people who worked 4 months in the details. So to expect us to pull out details that we could cut on is a big ask. Is a big ask. That's why guidance was important. That's why we tried to start this guidance process months ago. But if we don't give guidance to them, then they can't deliver what we have. Okay? Too many times our council just makes statements. It's like we're not interacting with each other. We're not attempting to change each other's mind. We're just making posturing statements. I really want to work. Like, I'd really like to know how my fellow council members, in their minds, look at Pueblo and see how they run a city of 111,000 people with fewer people. And Pueblo has a transit system and an airport. Not that it takes many people to run an airport, mind you. But 800 people. And our sister city right next door, Arvada. And those are the questions that I'm asking. And those are the kinds of questions we do have to get into detail. One of the details I do know is the homeless issue. And when we had the there was a case where no good deed goes unpunished. Okay. I mean, this council made, and the advocates for it made a true, heartfelt reach to find a solution to people who were violating our laws of the trespassing in our open spaces. And we went way overboard. And I know of at least one meeting that had nearly a dozen Westminster staff people in it for hours working on this to come up with some kind of way forward. And we've gone from what we were originally spending, $400,000 on homeless to $2 million next year? That's the wrong direction. That's completely the wrong direction. And my concern is when I look at other cities and when I look at our own history, we did better and we can do better. But we've got to set goals. And sometimes those are arbitrary. But I don't know the answer. Thank you.
Oh, Councilor Namilla, I don't know who came on first.
Sure, I'll go. Well, Councilor Baker, it's hard to utilize the numbers from other cities without truly understanding what services they are providing versus not providing. I know we have a rental inspection program that most communities don't have. We have a very robust open space program with rangers and education that other cities don't have. So that would be hard for me to be able to say, yeah, sure. If there were apples to apples, that might be something. I'm not, the budget to me is mostly in line with our, with the goals of the strategic plan. It does put a lot of emphasis on improving infrastructure, which costs a lot more now than it has in the past. And however, there's elements where, I still feel like we should be tackling root causes to things like homelessness than just, putting the Band-Aid on, trying to, I think it's probably a root cause and addressing the issues at hand. But that's what I think is missing. I also would really like to see more reserves in place for future capital needs that we know we have for replacement of major facilities. That is something that we've brought up a couple of times, and we need to start doing that. So it's not just, up to us to bond for things. We all know if we've looked at the water rate model in 10 years time, we're going to be bonding pretty heavily for just keeping ourselves in the black there. So what does that give us in terms of bonding capability to address some of our other facility needs? I also don't think that we are, with this budget, really addressing the key issues within our community, particularly with keeping people housed and people having access to opportunity and to thrive within our community. But that's not part of our strategic plan and the focus of our strategic plan. So, but that's where I see a gap, and I'm not overly happy with the entirety of our strategic plan. I think it misses some things, but in terms of the alignment with this budget and our adopted strategic plan, I think in general, there is a lot of good alignment, but I do agree that there's more that can be done in terms of what I mentioned before. So there's some dialogue, there's some thinking.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mayor. Much to what Councilor Namella just said, I don't think you can look at Arvada. I don't know much about Pueblo. I do know that Arvada is not the same as Westminster. They have a parks district. They have a fire district. So the city staff is structured different. Their services are structured different. But you said, you made it sound as though we don't have time to go into the details, but yet you just shot a bunch of details about cities that I don't know anything about. I know about this city. My stead is to look at this budget, understand this budget, and look line by line and look at the details. That's what we were elected to do. I have to tell you, I am frustrated because to hear from third parties that clearly you're upset with the way the budget is and have them to try to pressure from the public, which is their right to do. But yet we had a budget retreat. We spent all day with each other. And when you had said some levels that you would like to cut, I said, what? What would you like to cut? Because I'm not going to make an arbitrary cut. That was my direct dialogue between you and I. And that actually was both at the budget retreat as well as some of our budget meetings here. This is the place for the dialogue, not through late night email thoughts and people calling me and saying that they're upset with the budget. This is our time for dialogue. And I'm telling you, this is my thoughts on it. But you seem to want to throw arbitrary numbers and say that it's just wasteful. Well, what's wasteful? What individual position is wasteful? What individual service that we're funding or capital improvement is wasteful? Those are the things that I would need in order to make a educated decision about whether or not I agree with you that we need to cut things.
Roll call, please.
Counselor Nermella? Oh, yeah, yes. Counselor Seymour?
Yes.
Counselor Baker?
No.
Mayor Pro Tem Demott?
Yes.
Counselor Emmons?
Yes.
Counselor Izadi?
Yes.
Mayor McNally?
Yes,
The motion passes on a 6-1 vote.
that brings us to item C2. Mayor Pro Tem?
Thank you, Mayor. I move to adopt resolution number 35, setting the 2022 mill levy collectible in 2023, adopting the budget and capital improvement program for the fiscal year 2023.
Counselor Seymour?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to adopt resolution number 35. Is there any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Counselor Seymour?
Yes.
Counselor Baker?
No.
Mayor Pro Tem Demott?
Yes.
Counselor Emmons?
Yes.
Counselor Izadi?
Yes.
Mayor McNally?
Yes,
Counselor Nermella?
Yes.
The motion passes on a 6-1 vote.
that brings us to item C3. Mayor Pro Tem?
Thank you, Mayor. I move to pass Council Bill number 48 on first reading, making appropriations to pay an expense of continuing the public business for the year 2023 and other purposes required by the charter and any other law.
Counselor Seymour?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to pass Councilor's Bill number 48. Is there any further discussion? Counselor Baker? Roll call, please.
Counselor Baker?
No.
Mayor Pro Tem Demott?
Yes.
Counselor Emmons?
Yes.
Counselor Izadi?
Yes.
Mayor McNally?
Yes,
Counselor Nermella?
Yes.
Counselor Seymour?
Yes.
The motion passes on a 6-1 vote.
that brings us to item D. Is there a motion to pass Councilor's Bill number 49? Mayor?
Thank you, Mayor. I move to pass Council Bill number 49 on first reading, amending Title 11 of Westminster Municipal Code, Sections 11-1-6, 11-5-7, 11-5-8, 11-5-10, and creating a new section 11-5-6.5 to establish the concept plan review process for major development projects.
Counselor Seymour?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to pass Councilor's Bill number 49. Is there any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Mayor Pro Tem Demott?
Oh, sorry. Oh,
Thank you, sorry. I'll be voting no on this because I believe that our process is fine the way it is, and this will just add extra time to staff.
roll call, please.
Mayor Pro Tem Demott?
Yes.
Counselor Emmons?
Yes.
Counselor Izadi?
No.
Mayor McNally?
Yes,
Counselor Nermella?
No.
Counselor Seymour?
Yes.
Counselor Baker?
Yes.
The motion passes on a 5-2 vote.
that brings us to Councilor's Bill number 50. Counselor Seymour?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move to pass Councilor Bill number 50 on first reading to approve the proposed amendments to the Westminster Municipal Code, Section 11-5-13A, public hearings for land development approvals concerning the posting of public hearing signs and the publishing and mailing of public hearing notices.
Counselor Emmons?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to pass Councilor's Bill number 50. Is there any further discussion? Okay.
I know in the last discussion of this, we had asked what the official newspaper of the city is. I went back and forth on even bringing that up because one, I believe it was the Westminster Window was our official paper, and then we had published in the Denver Post. So I didn't see it defined in this layout that we have, and I just would like to have it defined if we could.
Councilor Emmons, thank you for the question. If I could ask staff to come up to the podium and address that question. John McConnell, head of our planning division.
Welcome.
Hi,
Mayor and Council. Yes, the Westminster Window is the newspaper of the city. That was adopted by a past resolution. Ms. Fitch may be able to provide you with the resolution number and approximate date.
I don't need that.
Okay.
I mean, I know it is, but it's not, I didn't see that it was defined in this.
Okay.
And so I'd like it to name it because it wasn't named in what we're reading.
If I could, the newspapers of general circulation are the standard that are utilized for publication of notice. So while the Westminster Window was previously identified by resolution as an official newspaper, we are able to use newspapers of general circulation to publish notice as well. And there are times, my understanding is that the publication deadlines for the window differ from other general circulation newspapers like the Denver Post. And so there are times where the Denver Post's publication deadlines make it the one option that would be timely notice.
So that I believe, thank you for that. And I believe that was the problem last time when we were reading this is that that we had said it would be in the official newspaper of the city, which is named as the Westminster Window. But then there was only one time, I believe there was enough time for it to be published in the Westminster Window, but it was actually published in the Denver Post. And so, and not in the Window. And so I want it to be clear that there's at every opportunity that we are using what we say we're going to use. If that, that there's a clear directive to staff that if there's available time for clear publication, it should absolutely be in our designated official newspaper of the city, which is the Westminster Window. And if the name changes, I don't know if we need to go through all these processes again, but.
Understood. And I would actually look to our planners. I believe there have been incidents where we've published in both, where both newspapers had been utilized because of challenges with timing. So for a project, just to ensure there was adequate public notice, I believe there have been examples where we've published in both Window and in the Denver Post. So I'm seeing some nods. So yes, but I think it's clear that staff understands that generally where the Window's timelines permit their use as the published notice, that is the practice of the city, and that would continue.
Okay. 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 I'll withdraw. Thank you.
Roll call, please.
Councillor Emmons,
Yes.
Councillor Zadi,
Yes.
Mayor McNally,
Yes.
Councillor Nermella,
Yes.
Councillor Seymour,
Yes.
Councillor Baker,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Demott.
Yes.
The motion passes on a 7-0 vote.
That brings us to item F1, Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to pass Council Bill number 51 on first reading, setting the salary for the presiding municipal court judge, Jason Lontine, for 2023.
Councillor Emmons.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to pass Councilor's Bill number 51. Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Councillor Zadi,
Yes.
Mayor McNally,
Yes.
Councillor Nermella,
Yes.
Councillor Seymour,
Yes.
Councillor Baker,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Demott,
Yes.
Councillor Emmons.
Yes.
The motion passes on a 7-0 vote.
That brings us to item F2, Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to authorize the mayor to execute a revised employment agreement with Jason Lontine for his services as presiding municipal court judge for 2023 with an effective date of January 1st, 2023.
Councillor Emmons.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to pass item F2. Is there any further discussion? Councillor Seymour.
Yes, Madam Mayor, just a quick comment. Greatly appreciate the work that Judge Lontine has done since his appointment to the bench. But I also want to bring up a fact that too, because of we talk about unfunded mandates from our state legislature. We had a situation that has put our court under a greater stress, and where Judge Lontine will be serving on Saturdays as well because of speedy hearings that take little consideration as far as what the municipalities will have to take on as far as additional salaries, security to keep our courts safe. And we appreciate the fact that though that it was an unfunded mandate, Judge Lontine in his professionalism stepped up and addressed those issues with the court and has a plan in place to meet another unfunded mandate from our legislature.
Roll call, please.
Mayor McNally,
Yes.
Councilor Nermella,
Yes.
Councilor Seymour,
Yes.
Councilor Baker,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Demott,
Yes.
Councilor Emmons,
Yes.
Councilor Izadi.
Yes.
The motion passes on a 7-0 vote.
That brings us to item G. Councilor Emmons.
I move to pass Councilor's Bill number 52, extending the Parks, Open Space, and Trails post-sales and use tax.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to pass Councilor's Bill number 52. Is there any further discussion? Councilor Baker?
Yes, this is the tax that was voted on by, well, the citizens of Westminster, correct? Very good. Thank you.
Roll call, please.
Yeah,
sorry.
just wanted to note that this was on the ballot on our last election. I did vote against this on council and putting it on the ballot, but our residents have spoken that this is something that they want, and so I will be supporting this tonight.
Roll call, please.
Councilor Nermella,
Yes.
Councilor Seymour,
Yes.
Councilor Baker,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Demott,
Yes.
Councilor Emmons,
Yes.
Councilor Izadi,
Yes.
Mayor McNally.
Yes.
The motion passes on a 7-0 vote.
That brings us to Councilor's Bill number 53. Councilor Seymour?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move to pass Councilor's Bill number 53, amending Title 4 to clarify economic nexus and marketplace facilitator requirements, conforming amendments, and exempting both Senate Bill 21-260 retail delivery fee and House Bill 21-1162 carry-out bag fee from sales and use tax.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to pass Councilor's Bill 53. Any further discussion? Councilor Seymour?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This is another issue that was put on to us by our legislators, where you agree with it or not. It takes away local control. What we want to do in this is make sure that our taxes are not piling on a mandate that was passed by the legislature.
Councilor Izadi?
I have a question for staff. If anyone can come up and explain those two bills in more detail.
Thank you and good evening, Larry Dorr, Chief Financial Officer and Deputy City Manager. Yes, these House and Senate bills that are referenced in this ordinance before City Council tonight instituted two fees at the state level. So fees that must be collected at the times of transaction for retail deliveries into Westminster or frankly anywhere in the state of Colorado. And then second, a carry-out bag fee that must be collected and remitted to the state. What's before the Mayor and Mayor Pro Tem City Council tonight is whether or not the City of Westminster sales tax would be assessed on the fee in addition to the tangible personal property that's sold or delivered within Westminster. And this ordinance will clarify that the city's sales tax is not imposed also on the fee and not just the tangible personal property. So what's happening here, the state, I wouldn't be able to comment on the purpose or the political vision or desire from the state to have these particular fees. Our business here tonight is to have the City of Westminster sales tax not imposed on the fee itself that's happening on those transactions in our city. Okay. Thank you.
Roll call, please.
Councilor Seymour,
Yes.
Councilor Baker,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Demott,
Yes.
Councilor Emmons,
Yes.
Councilor Izadi,
No.
Mayor McNally,
Yes.
Councilor Nermella.
Yes.
The motion passes on a 6-1 vote.
That brings us to Councilor's Bill number 54. Councilor Nermella?
Oh.
I just looked for lights.
Move to pass Councilor Bills number Bill number 54 on first reading, providing for a supplemental appropriation of funds in the amount of $1,558,775 to the General Capital Improvement Fund, the General Capital Outlay Replacement Fund, and the 2022 General Fund.
Counselor Emmons.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to pass Counselor's Bill number 54. Is there any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Counselor Baker,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Demott,
Yes.
Counselor Emmons,
Yes.
Counselor Izadi,
Yes.
Mayor McNally,
Yes.
Counselor Normella,
Yes.
Counselor Seymour.
Yes.
The motion passes on a 7-0 vote.
That brings us to Counselor's Bill number 55. Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to pass Council Bill number 55 on first reading, implementing water reclaimed and sewer rate and water utility infrastructure charge adjustments for 2023 by amending sections 8-7-7, 8-8-5, and 8-12-7 of the Westminster Municipal Code effective January 1st, 2023.
Counselor Seymour.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to pass Counselor's Bill number 55. Is there any further discussion? Did you have something?
I just want to commend staff on their work that they've been doing to figure out the right balance to replace the water treatment plant and rates. I know that this is something that I have spent the majority of my first 5 years on, is what we have done with water rates. And I've always told people that water rates will go up. The question for me always was, is it balanced in a way that people can assume those increases? And I also wanted us to really look at options for the water treatment plant. Staff has been doing that hard work. I know we're not there and we still have more work to do, but I think that the plan that you're laying out for us is a much more balanced increase, what we were more used to before we started seeing larger increases. And I just, for one, want to thank staff for all your hard work on it, and this council for their hard work on this, which is a very delicate issue. But it is important that we have both balance and a well-maintained utility as far as rates in our utilities. So thank you very much.
Counselor Numella.
Actually, I'll remain a broken record on this, where I do really appreciate my council colleagues and their efforts to obtain more understanding of what our system looks like, how we're going to fund it, what our options are. And I also really appreciate staff doing the same and providing us with an excellent model and a lot of explanation. I still am concerned over where, if we were to continue on the model projections of trying to have a 4.5% increase annually for the next 10 years, I feel like that ends us up in a financial hole when it comes to the other infrastructure improvements that we need to make, including some type of improvement or new water facility. So that's a concern I have, but I'm not going to not appreciate the fact that we are still increasing water rates. To that effect, I like us to still continue as a council and as a city to look at ways where we can, the intent of actually reevaluating the amount of our increase was to provide financial relief for our community. And at some point, I think we're going to be backed into, whether it's this council or another, needing to increase beyond where we're projecting. And I would like us to continue to look at ways where we can, again, provide relief for those community members on fixed incomes that are making, in our low-income households. I know I've suggested it a couple of times, is to look at voluntary roundup programs where those who have the means and have the will, whether it's residential or commercial development, can pay more to help provide us with additional funds to provide some stabilization for our community members who may not be able to accommodate those increases. So I think Mr. Andrews provided me with some additional input that perhaps that is something that we could look at in the future, and potentially look at other community programs like Aurora Cares. So I appreciate that response. So that's all.
Counselor Baker?
I will be voting no on this. We're making this rate increase on details we don't have, on plans we don't have the details of and can't share with the public. Talk about arbitrary. I think this is absolutely arbitrary. We have somehow married ourselves to somehow a 4% increase is magic. It is not. It should be based on hard data, which it is not. So I'll be voting no.
Roll call, please.
Mayor Pro Tem Demott,
Yes.
Counselor Emmons,
Yes.
Counselor Izadi,
No.
Mayor McNally,
Yes.
Counselor Normella,
Yes.
Counselor Seymour,
Yes.
Counselor Baker.
Oh,
The motion passes on a 5-2 vote.
That brings us to item K, adopt resolution number 36. Mayor Pro Tem?
Thank you, Mayor. I move to adopt resolution number 36 to recognize Jody Andrews for his efforts and service as interim city manager with a net payable bonus of $10,000.
Counselor Emmons?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to adopt resolution 36. Is there any further discussion? No. Roll call, please.
Counselor Emmons,
Yes.
Counselor Izadi,
Yes.
Mayor McNally,
Yes.
Counselor Normella,
Yes.
Counselor Seymour,
Yes.
Counselor Baker,
yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Demott.
Yes.
The motion passes on a 7-0 vote.
Thank you.
We've already done K2, so going to L. Counselor Seymour?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move to authorize the city manager to sign the Sixth Amendment to the intergovernmental agreement with Urban Drainage and Flood Control District, doing business as Mile High Flood District, to document an additional city contribution of $1,300,000 in stormwater utility funds and $92,000 in parks, recreation, and library capital project funds for a total city commitment of $1,392,000 for the final design and construction of the Big Dry Creek Drainage Project and related efforts.
Counselor Emmons?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to pass Counselor's bill or item 10L. Is there any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Counselor Izadi,
Yes.
Mayor McNally,
Yes.
Counselor Normella,
Yes.
Counselor Seymour,
Yes.
Counselor Baker,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Demott,
Yes.
Counselor Emmons.
Yes.
The motion passes on a 7-0 vote.
That ends the city council portion of the meeting. I'm going to call a quick break of 5 to 7 minutes before we start into the WIDA stuff. We will continue with the WIDA board meeting, incorporating the roll call from the past meeting. Roll call, please. Oh, no, we don't need roll call, sorry. But it's on my note, so it's there. We have consideration of minutes of preceding meeting of September 26, 2022. Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move to approve the minutes of the September 26, 2022 meting as presented.
Councilor Emmons.
Second.
Sorry, Board Member Emmons. And your Vice Chair. Oh, Lord. Is there any comments on the minutes? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. That brings us to public hearings. We'll hold a public hearing on the Westminster Economic Development Authority 2023 proposed budget. Interim City Manager Andrews.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll ask Larry Dorr to lead us with a brief overview.
Thank you, Mr. Andrews. I'm Larry Dorr, Deputy City Manager and Chief Financial Officer. I'm also the Treasurer of the Westminster Economic Development Authority. Good evening, Madam Chair and board members. In addition to your work earlier tonight on the city's operating and capital budgets, you also have before you tonight 10 additional budgets to adopt. These are the budgets of the Westminster Economic Development Authority, commonly referred to as WEDA, and the city's 9 general improvement districts, commonly referred to as GIDs. These entities are controlled by you, and their financial activities are a part of the city's annual comprehensive financial report and the audit of that report. WEDA's anticipated revenues are expected to be $20 million next year, and the 9 GIDs a total of $1 million. These activities are not new in the city of Westminster and have been operating since the late 1980s. Each of these 10 entities strengthen and support the city's strategic plan, guiding principles, mission, and vision. I'm joined tonight by staff members from a number of operating departments who will be available to address your questions. And while 3 urban renewal areas of WEDA also have GIDs that overlap them, we would be happy to address any items that pertain to the given projects in general for the ease of your discussion. And hence I've combined my comments tonight, both related to your WEDA activities and those of the general improvement districts. Thank you.
Thank you. I will open the public hearing. It is 8:55. And do we have anybody signed up or that wishes to speak?
We do not. Anyone signed up?
Anyone in the audience wanting to speak that didn't get signed up? It is 8:55 and I will close the hearing. And that brings us to item adopt resolution number 222. Councilor Emmons or Board Member Emmons?
I move to adopt resolution number 222, adopting the 2023 proposed budget for the Westminster Economic Development Authority as presented, including the appropriation of funds as set forth.
Vice Chair Dumont.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to adopt resolution number 222. Any further discussion? Councilor Baker?
Yes, this was quite a lot to read through and understand. There are a couple of these improvement districts. That's not the right word. What am I looking for? What is the North Huron one thing called? Urban renewal area. Urban renewal area. They're like, there have been 9, but only 7 are active now.
There have been 9 and 8 are active.
8 are active. But 3 of them, we own the bonds to, don't we? Holly Park, we just took over the bonds for the Walmart on Sheridan and 72nd. And then there's another one at 72nd and Lowell that we own the bonds on, right?
Correct. Yes. And I just for the sake of the record, Board Member Baker, I just want to make sure that we are segregating urban renewal areas from the general improvement districts.
Right.
You were just asking a question about those general improvement districts.
No. Urban renewal areas.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Just for the sake of the record, if I could, WEDA has urban renewal areas at Holly Park, the shops at Walnut Creek, the Orchard, 72nd and Sheridan.
Westminster Center East, and the downtown.
Right. Okay. And so we own the bonds on 3 of them. So that means 5 of them are bonds held by other entities.
Correct. Thank you.
Okay. And the Sheridan and 72nd bond is actually cash flowing, and we're paying that off, and that'll be paid off in like 3 more years, correct?
Yes, I believe the tax increment finance debt is at 3.8 million, and obviously was originally much higher than that.
Right. Okay. And the Holly Park one is, that's a negative one, right? Because we're not really collecting enough increment to pay even the interest on the bonds.
Well, the debt that is outstanding and owed by the Westminster Economic Development Authority was issued by the city, or loan in an interfund transfer by the city to WEDA, and there isn't enough cash flow to repay that outstanding debt to the city, as described in the budget and in the staff memo.
Okay, so how will we pay that off?
Well, development could occur on that site at some point in the future, creating
Well, I think
additional.
we've even seen
increment.
plans for that site, haven't we?
I'm not aware of plans submitted for that site, but that's inevitably, or the only way that the debt would ever be repaid is if it develops and tax increment is generated on the site.
And the same is true at the urban renewal area at 72nd and Lowell, right? That again is a non-performing fund.
I think if you're referring to South Westminster, I believe that particular area has, the urban renewal area is established for a period of 25 years, and then by an operation of statute, it just ends
Ceases
as
to
it was.
exist.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
But I mean, weren't there 2 down there?
I don't believe so. I beg your pardon. I'm seeing that there was one in South Westminster that expired in 2018. Perhaps I could refer
Is there
to.
another one currently running?
I don't believe so. No, I'm sorry.
No.
Is it described in the budget book here, Board Member Baker? I'm sorry, and maybe the legal counsel could advise our economic development staff. Thank you.
This on? Okay, sorry. Lindsay Kimball, Economic Development Director. Board Member Baker, there was 2 established for the 72nd and Lowell area. They both have expired. So that might be what you're thinking of. There was one in the 80s and one in the 90s.
So then did we have 10, of 2 of which are expired?
Beg your pardon. I believe we had 9 and 2 are now expired.
So we have 7 active.
We do that. I can.
3 of which we own the bonds for. So there are 4 we don't. Those would be North Huron, Walnut Creek, the east downtown right here.
Right.
And then, of course, the new downtown.
Correct.
Okay. I was having a hard time reading the reports on it. It appeared that North Huron was actually making money, and we were like putting $6 million aside each year.
Well, the North Huron urban renewal area has undertaken considerable capital improvement projects over the last number of years. Those are very mature at this point. There's still significant activities to occur, significant construction activities to occur this year. But for next year, some of those activities will be winding down, and it will be, staff will be preparing recommendations for this board for additional capital investment considerations in the coming year once these construction projects are completed.
Okay, but that one is actually paying all its debts. So it's paying the interest, it's paying the principal, and it's actually setting money aside for other capital improvement.
That's correct.
Okay, and is that the similar condition at the shops at Walnut Creek?
Well, the shops at Walnut Creek are complete. Obviously, those folks are familiar with that. That's at Church Ranch and Interstate 36, which includes the Target site and BJ's, Hacienda, and the Michael store. That's a very mature site. And the income generated is
going to repay those bonds. And there are funds on hand in reserves for those public bond holders. And the amount of the debt is significantly larger and still has some years to go. But short answer to your question is yes.
And I mean, the new downtown, is it generating enough increment to pay the interest and the principal?
Yeah, I'd like to defer to Bob Beyerhoff, Treasury Division Manager, who can talk about some of the interwoven liabilities and so forth at the downtown. Mr. Beyerhoff?
Yes, good evening. Regarding downtown, we have the COPs that were issued in 2015. And currently the debt on those COPs is not being covered 100% by the property tax increment that is pledged towards it. We do foresee, depending on development and how it goes about, around 2024, we'll cross that line where it'll be positive.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
And I asked the same question about East, the other one that's down here.
Mr. Beyerhoff?
You're specifically asking about Mandalay Gardens?
No, really, Mandalay Gardens is, well, the shops at Walnut Creek.
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, what's the one right here where we had the
West
72nd and, I'm sorry, 92nd and Sheridan? What's that one?
92nd and Sheridan. Well, that would be the Center East.
Okay, Center East.
Yes.
Okay. And is that one paying its principal and interest?
There is no debt in that sector of the urban renewal area. So it's totally cash funded.
So, and then is it setting aside money for really capital improvements?
Yes, and historically as well, there have been contributions from that district to help seed the work project as well as other projects that are identified within that urban renewal area.
That leads perfectly to what it is. I didn't understand the outflows from these areas. Can you explain that?
Well, some of it.
Transfers out.
Yes, the one that you're describing at the moment, I think is the one that's most visible. Westminster Center East is transferring funds out so that the city can pay the money that it has borrowed to do preliminary financing in the downtown. All of the transfers out are either to the general improvement districts themselves to meet their various obligations, or to the city.
Well, these are urban renewal.
Right. Yes, but they have interrelated financial arrangements with both the general improvement districts and the city to directly pay financial obligations related to the projects themselves and or neighboring projects as it was.
So basically the Center East, was that what it's called?
Mm-hmm.
Center East
Mm-hmm.
has excess increment, property tax increment, and then we transferred some money out. And what did it pay for?
It paid for the borrowings that Mr. Beyerhoff just described a moment ago. That
paid for the what?
Mr. Beyerhoff, would you?
Yes, the transfers out were the city obviously spent a lot of money up front to seed the downtown area, and the Center East, because of the excess increment, is allowed to move money, transfer money to help pay for capital projects, which could be part of the debt funding as well. So it could be one or the other depending on the use of those funds.
So whose capital project?
This would be for downtown Westminster.
So it's actually shifting money from Center East to the new downtown.
Yes, and that is allowable, yes.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions? Roll call, please.
Vice Chairperson Demott,
Yes.
Board Member Emmons,
Yes.
Board Member Izadi,
Yes.
Chairperson McNally.
Yes.
Board Member Nurmela,
Yes.
Board Member Seymour,
Yes.
Board Member Baker.
Yes.
Motion passes on a 7-0 vote.
That concludes the WIDA meeting, and we will move into the GID agenda, incorporating the roll call from the past two meetings. That brings us to consideration of minutes of October 11th, 2021. Councilor Emmons.
I move that the board approve the minutes of the October 11, 2021 meetings of the Orchard Park Place North, 144th Avenue, Mandalay Town Center, 136th Avenue, Sheridan Crossing, Westminster Station, Downtown, Amherst, and Park 1200 General Improvement Districts as presented.
Board Member Seaborn.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes of October 11th, 2021. Is there any further discussion? Roll call, please, or all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. That brings us to public hearings and new business. Do we have anything from staff for these? Then I will open the public hearing. It's 9:08, and is there anyone that wishes to talk about our GIDs? Seeing no one, it is 9:08 or 9:09, and I will close the public hearing. And that brings us to Resolution 15. Board Member Seymour.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move to adopt resolution number 15 that sets the mill levy for the tax year 2022 for collection in 2023 at 13.0 mills for Westminster Orchard Park Place North General Improvement District. Formally adopts the 2023 budget for the district as presented and appropriates the funds as budgeted.
Board Member Emmons.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to adopt Resolution 15. Is there any further discussion? Councilor Baker.
Okay, is this the maximum mill levy for this GID?
Just one moment. Let me quickly just refer to the notes for Orchard Park. Yes, I believe the maximum is three mills for capital improvements and 10 mills for debt and cost recoveries.
Thank you.
Roll call, please.
Board Member Baker,
Yes.
Vice Chairperson Demott,
Yes.
Board Member Emmons,
Yes.
Board Member Izadi,
Yes.
Chairperson McNally,
Yes.
Board Member Nurmela,
Yes.
Board Member Seymour.
Yes.
The motion passes on a 7-0 vote.
That brings us to Resolution 21. Board Member Emmons.
I move to adopt resolution number 21 that sets the mill levy for the tax year 2022 for collection in 2023 at 20 mills for the City of Westminster, 144th Avenue General Improvement District, formally adopts the 2023 budget for the district and appropriates the funds as budgeted.
Board Member Seymour.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to adopt Resolution number 21. Is there any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Vice Chairperson Demott,
Yes.
Board Member Emmons,
Yes.
Board Member Izadi,
Yes.
Chairperson McNally,
Yes.
Board Member Nurmela,
Yes.
Board Member Seymour,
Yes.
Board Member Baker.
Yes.
The motion passes on a 7-0 vote.
That brings us to Resolution 26. Board Member Emmons.
I move to adopt resolution number 26 that sets the mill levy for the tax year 2022 for collection in 2023 at 35 mills for the City of Westminster, Mandalay Town Center General Improvement District, formally adopts the 2023 budget for the district as presented and appropriates the funds as budgeted.
Board Member Seymour.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to adopt Resolution 26. Is there any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Board Member Emmons,
Yes.
Board Member Izadi,
Yes.
Chairperson McNally,
Yes.
Board Member Nurmela,
Yes.
Board Member Seymour,
Yes.
Board Member Baker,
Yes.
Vice Chairperson Demott.
Yes.
The motion passes on a 7-0 vote.
That brings us to Resolution 27. Board Member Emmons.
Move to adopt resolution number 27 that sets the mill levy for the tax year 2022 for collection in 2023 at 16 mills for the City of Westminster, 136th Avenue General Improvement District, formally adopts the 2023 budget for the district as presented and appropriates the funds as budgeted.
Board Member Seymour.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to adopt Resolution 27. Is there any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Board Member Izadi.
Yes.
Chairperson McNally.
Yes.
Board Member Nurmela.
Yes.
Board Member Seymour.
Yes.
Board Member Baker.
Yes.
Vice Chairperson Demott.
Yes.
Board Member Emmons.
Yes.
The motion passes on a 7-0 vote.
That brings us to Resolution 39. Board Member Emmons.
I move to adopt resolution number 39 that sets the mill levy for the tax year 2022 for collection in 2023 at 12 mills for the City of Westminster Sheridan Crossing General Improvement District, formally adopts the 2023 budget for the district as presented and appropriates the funds as budgeted.
Board Member Seymour.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to adopt Resolution 39. Is there any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Chairperson McNally.
Yes.
Board Member Nurmela.
Yes.
Board Member Seymour.
Yes.
Board Member Baker.
Yes.
Vice Chairperson Demott.
Yes.
Board Member Emmons.
Yes.
Board Member Izadi.
Yes.
The motion passes on a 7-0 vote.
That brings us to Resolution number 5. Board Member Emmons.
Move to adopt resolution number 5 that sets the mill levy for tax year 2022 for collection in 2023 at 35 mills for the City of Westminster. Westminster Station General Improvement District formally adopts the 2023 budget for the district as presented and appropriates the funds as budgeted.
Board Member Seymour.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to adopt Resolution number 5. Is there any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Board Member Nurmela.
Yes.
Board Member Seymour.
Yes.
Board Member Baker.
Yes.
Vice Chairperson Demott.
Yes.
Board Member Emmons.
Yes.
Board Member Izadi.
Yes.
Chairperson McNally.
Yes.
The motion passes on a 7-0 vote.
That brings us to Resolution number 6. Board Member Emmons.
I move to adopt resolution number 6 that sets the mill levy for the tax year 2022 for collection in 2023 at 35 mills for the City of Westminster Downtown General Improvement District, formally adopts the 2023 budget for the district as presented and appropriates the funds as budgeted.
Board Member Seymour.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to adopt Resolution number 6. Is there any further discussion? Councilor Baker.
Yes. On this district, I know the maximum mill levy is 50 mills.
It is, and what's in the ordinance or the adoption of this budget would implement a 35 mill levy. That's correct.
Okay. Why is that? Because most of these others have been at their maximum level, right?
Yes, I think the one before, I was checking that as we went along. It was a little tough to keep up there, but the one before also had a little bit of a gap there. First, let me just describe for those watching and here in chambers that we're discussing the downtown general improvement district, and the district exists for the many services that will be present and are present in the downtown. The higher maximum mill levy gives this board, the authority to implement a higher levy and have greater revenues for a different level of service should it choose to make some change at some point in the future. But for the moment, this is the authorized mill levy that will bring forward the level of capital activities and maintenance and operations in the district as is at 35 mills.
So this pays for certain really capital projects for, the GID, correct?
Let me just tell you the ratio here really quick. And I may invite our Director of Economic Development, Lindsay Kimball, to come and make a few additional comments as to the breakdown of the levy from operations and capital. And she may have a couple of comments.
on that, Ms. Kimball.
Sure, happy to. There is $600,000 from the GID being used for operating expenditures. So that would be things, it goes to various accounts, to various departments across the city, and those WARP accounts. So it helps pay for maintenance, snow removal, parks, all of those sorts of things in running a nice downtown.
That I understand, but my question was about capital improvement. Does it pay for capital improvement? We all know that it pays for sweeping the street and picking up the trash and moving the snow. Does it pay for capital improvement?
At this point, Board Member Baker, it does not. We use the GID funds, the outflow to the city, to pay for operating. However, I will say there is also an inflow from WIDA, from the downtown URA, and that URA money is used to fund capital.
Why isn't this money used to run the parking in the new downtown?
It actually is. Some of the work does go to parking. Thank you for reminding me. That isn't another one of those accounts for work.
Well, my question is, why doesn't it pay for all of the parking? Because as it is right now, parking as the separate business entity that we run is losing $500,000 a year. And if the GID could pay for it, why don't we have the GID pay for it?
I'm not sure if I'm the right person to answer that question. I know that there's other places throughout the city that take advantage of those parking regulation services. So I don't think it would ever be 100% covered by downtown, because it's not 100% utilized in downtown.
Yeah, I think that the vision for this general improvement district is for the growing need for maintenance and operations within the downtown as the downtown matures and there are a greater degree of activities. But there will be some capital maintenance items. But the current financial makeup of managing parking in the downtown is as has been described in earlier meetings and in our overview study session of parking management at Westminster in whole. But these general improvement district funds will be necessary to maintain the downtown as is.
Well, it's my understanding that it's at the my understanding that the vast majority of our parking services are at the train station and the new downtown. Is that incorrect?
I don't. I wish I had Dave Downing here from our community development department.
I hate to speak for him. I hope if he's watching, he forgives me if I misstate something. But to the best of my knowledge, sir, they are also taking over some of those enforcement of handicap parking to free up our police force from having to do that. So we're going to have parking management and regulation. Jody, please correct me if I'm wrong. But throughout the whole city being done by that parking enforcement arm of community development.
I would add, Board Member Baker, that in this year's budget, a lot of the operating funds go to taking over enforcement of street parking, which has been the purview of the police department. And I believe last year's numbers were 2,200 parking-related call-outs for police, which are now going to be taken over by the parking management budget that we reviewed last week at City Council.
Okay, well, what I'm trying to get at here is that the management of the parking at both the train station and the downtown, I think, are quite appropriate functions for the GIDs to be responsible for. And as a matter of fact, aren't those the only two locations that generate income from parking? I mean, handicap parking and handicap spaces and street parking doesn't generate any income for the city at all, which is why the police department.
Thank you, Board Member Baker. Again, the total parking budget is now a citywide budget, so it does include funds for enforcement activities on all the other city streets. So we couldn't, I think, apportion 100% of that program cost to these two GIDs. Some of it needs to.
But if we really separated the citywide function from these two GIDs, the parking.
Yes, thank you. Staff would, for that clarification, staff would have to bring back a different split of the program funding overall, if you wanted to accomplish that. I think what you have before you is that staff has made the best effort to apportion the correct budgets into these GIDs to be funded by the GIDs for this year.
Thank you.
Councilor Numella?
I was just going to add that in general, I am glad that we're not maxing out our GID capability because as we think about, and if you probably noticed, most of our GIDs are not, fully taking advantage of. I think they can go up to 50 mils. And one of the things that we have to be careful about in our commercial districts is just how high the property taxes go, because that does impact our ability to attract employers and businesses, because those get directly impacted in terms of how they pay for when they're leasing space, what they have to pay their property taxes as well as CAM charges and insurance, and those triple net fees can be pretty extensive on top of rent, and so we just have to be cautious about where we set these levels.
Councilor Baker?
Well, doesn't the GID take care of the CAM? Isn't that the whole point?
Not for individual buildings.
Oh, for individual buildings.
Also, the payers of the property tax mill levy rate are I think, what Board Member Numella is describing. Just if I could add that clarification.
Roll call, please.
Board Member Seymour,
Yes.
Board Member Baker,
Yes.
Vice Chairperson Demott,
Yes.
Board Member Emmons,
Yes.
Board Member Izadi,
Yes.
Chairperson McNally,
Yes.
Board Member Nurmela.
Yes.
The motion passes on a 7-0 vote.
That brings us to resolution number 42. Gosh, I got 4 of you. I didn't see who did what. Councilor Baker?
Wonderful. Leave your light on and that's what you get. I really move 42. Oh, well, this is Amherst. This is fine. Really move to adopt resolution number 42. Well, that sets the mill levy for the tax year 2022 of the collection in 2023 at 5 mills for, the city of Westminster, Amherst General Improvement District. Formally adopts the 2023 budget for the district as presented and appropriates the funds as budgeted.
Board Member Emmons?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to adopt resolution number 42. Is there any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Board Member Baker,
Yes.
Vice Chairperson Demott,
Yes.
Board Member Emmons,
Yes.
Board Member Izadi,
Yes.
Chairperson McNally,
Yes.
Board Member Nurmela,
Yes.
Board Member Seymour.
Yes.
The motion passes on a 7-0 vote.
That brings us to resolution number 9. Vice Chair Demott?
I move to adopt resolution number 9 that sets the mill levy for the tax year 2022 for collection in 2023 at 10 mills for the city of Westminster Park 1200 General Improvement District. Formally adopts the 2023 budget for the district as presented and appropriates the fund as budgeted.
Board Member Emmons?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to adopt resolution number 9. Is there any further discussion? Board Member Baker?
Yes, I have a concern that these 10 mills will not pay for the $175,000 sprinkler system renovation we were told about. And that would be a maintenance responsibility of this GID, would it not?
Thank you, Councilor Baker. Board Member Baker. I'd like to invite Parks, Recreation, and Libraries Director Tomas Herrera Mischler to make some comments about the activities in the district. Thank you.
Good evening. It's great that we're almost there. Right now, the park that we are committed to building there has not been fully designed. We do have funds that have been identified for master planning this park, which will include renovations to the very ineffective irrigation system that's out there. So the park master plan is scheduled to start in about a year, and it'll identify the capital costs that will be needed to fully implement the plan at that time, including the irrigation improvements.
It was my understanding when Park 1200 came before council in, I think, 2015, that this park was going to be built completely by, well, the developer of those apartments, or the Tenzing apartments. So is this not true, or is the city or the taxpayers of the city being saddled with an unfilled promise from like the developer of Park 1200?
No, the park was built. It is needs renovation. There's a pathway that needs to be made ADA accessible. The irrigation system is now quite ineffective and needs to be upgraded. So there is a park, but it's not up to, I would say, our standards as a city.
But the park's only 7 years old.
Yeah.
So was it like inferior build that we took over?
Yeah, I can't respond to that because I just don't know.
problem.
Don't know the
Thank you so
answer to that.
Roll call, please.
Vice Chairperson Demott,
Yes.
Board Member Emmons,
Yes.
Board Member Izadi,
Yes.
Chairperson McNally,
Yes.
Board Member Nermella,
Yes.
Board Member Seymour,
Yes.
Board Member Baker.
Yes.
The motion passes on a 7-0 vote.
Concludes the meeting for the GID improvement districts. We'll next move into post-meeting presentations and wish everyone a good night that isn't going to follow us over there.
Lindsay's job.
They broke one. So it was in here and I didn't have one to,
Oh.
oops.
Good job.
I don't know which one of you broke it.
Oh.
Okay, we're in post meeting and we are going to.
Turn it straight over to Teresa Bocco, who's going to lead us through a brief presentation and then discussion direction.
Again, good evening, Council, Mayor Pro Tem. And this evening, we're here to just discuss with you the state and local ballot measures that are up for consideration for this year's election. Again, the election day is set for November 8th. The Blue Book has been put out by the Legislative Council. So again, we encourage all of our voters and residents to educate themselves on the measures. And the measures have been reviewed by staff and reviewed with the lens of the legislative policy statement. So attached to your packet, there was both a state ballot measure and a local ballot measure. What we're here tonight is to discuss those measures on which we would recommend a position. Certainly, if you want to talk about any of the ballot measures, we're happy to do that for you. So the first one we'll start with is Proposition 122, which is access to natural psychedelic substances. Based on staff's reading of the measure and the impacts to local governments, we are recommending an opposed position, essentially because under the measure, local governments, while they can regulate the time, place, and manner of operation of licensed facilities, local governments cannot ban or prohibit licensed facilities or ban or prohibit the personal use of psychedelic mushrooms or other plant-based psychedelic substances in their communities. Staff sees this as a conflict with the home rule and local control section of the legislative policy statement. Certainly there are some other impacts as well, but we would stand on that as our main concern. So we certainly are here just to advise and to provide that recommendation and take your feedback.
Anyone not opposed to this measure?
Not opposed to opposing?
I mean, anybody support it?
Yeah. I don't find any problem with it at all, except for the local control thing. But isn't this as a medical?
It is.
Like we don't control doctors or clinics or anything else like that, so.
It requires the state to establish a regulated system for accessing psychedelic mushrooms and decriminalizes substances in Colorado for individuals 21 and over. So that's the essential piece of it that kind of summarizes it. The other piece of it is there can be costs to local governments to the extent that local governments have to issue additional regulations on the operation of licensed facilities in their jurisdiction. So it becomes a bit of a funded mandate for the city as well. So those are the two pieces that we would pull from your legislative policy statement as justification for that.
Councilor Seymour and then Mayor Pro Tem.
I support staff recommendation to oppose.
Mayor Pro Tem.
I support the recommendation to oppose, and to be quite frank, I can't even believe that this is something that is being considered for the state. I think it would be a disaster.
I just have a question. So the one thing that always bugs me is people just driving under the influence of anything. And that's, so if somebody, I don't even know how it works with pot even, but I mean, are we able to, I guess, prosecute somebody that would be found to be under? Because I just don't know the impact of psychedelics on driving, and maybe no one does.
I do not know the answer to that question. I can.
Chief is making
I'll just look
faces.
at Chief.
Oh, there we go.
Wasn't the one I studied for.
Pop quiz.
Mayor Pro Tem, Council, Interim Chief Norm Hubbard.
To answer your question, Mayor, we do prosecute somebody that is exhibiting signs of being under the influence of any psychedelic or any narcotic. Most of the, like alcohol, we actually test and there's different thresholds. For psilocybin, there is no threshold that we find acceptable or that the state law finds acceptable. So any amount would, generally speaking, be evidence of driving under the influence, if that makes sense.
That is helpful.
Where alcohol, there's different thresholds for different penalties. Same thing with marijuana, there's different rates as we find it in the blood. But if the person would have to be exhibiting signs of being under the influence of some type of drug, just leave it at that. And then we would then administer chemical tests at that point in time. It would take us several days to get those results back. But then from there, we would then, in theory, charge that person with driving under the influence of drugs. Yes.
Okay, cool. Thank you. Thoughts?
Well, in that case, since we do have the ability to prosecute, I'm, personally not opposed to. I'm gonna say this wrong.
You support staff's
Your recommendation? No.
Okay.
I support staff's recommendation.
Obie, I didn't catch what you said.
I do not support staff's recommendation.
I do support your recommendation.
So I have 4 supports, or support staff's recommendation. Okay, thank you. Okay. Just a reminder, Proposition 123, dedicate revenue for affordable housing programs. A majority of Westminster City Council indicated an opposed position on this measure back on September 26th. So just a reminder on that. Then moving on to the local ballot measures. The first one we would like to take up is the Jefferson County ballot issue 1A. That is that no local tax, I can read the whole thing, or I can just let you know that this is basically to allow Jefferson County to retain all non-property tax revenue, including things such as grants, retained and expended starting in 2022 and each year subsequent thereafter, notwithstanding limitations of Article 6, Section 20 of the Colorado Constitution, or any other law. Historically, on tax measures, because neighboring communities can also help us, and we have our partnering agreements, we believe that having adequate resources generally benefits the Westminster residents as well. We also see this is aligned with the legislative policy statement on general finance to support the continuation of existing local government financing methods and the addition of new methods for local governments to support the provision of services to citizens. So the recommendation of staff is to support this ballot measure.
On this one, on 1A, I do not support staff's recommendation.
Mayor Pro Tem?
I also don't support staff recommendation on this one.
I do support it.
I do not.
I support it.
Do not.
And I don't.
You do not. Okay, so that is.
They're debrucing, right? Is what they're really doing. Plus a lot of this, the grant money I know and everything else, but.
Essentially, with the exception of, for non-property tax revenue, correct? Okay. Oh. So does council, would you like to take a neutral position, or obviously we will not put forth the support position. So is there a neutral or support or oppose council would like to take?
I would oppose.
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 Okay, so we will adopt an opposed position. Okay, thank you. And the last one.
May I ask a quick question before you move on? As it relates to Jefferson County, I should know this, and I'm sorry I do not. Do we have any unincorporated areas in What do we do in Westminster for Jefferson County? Okay. So how would ballot issue 1B then relate to us as it relates to if it does pass and they are in Westminster? How does that relate to marijuana sales within Westminster and Jefferson County? Long effect.
I would think this would only, it would be in those unincorporated areas, still in Jefferson, unincorporated Jefferson County, so not.
I think are you asking like that because they're surrounded by Westminster?
Yeah.
But I don't think any of the pockets of Jefferson County that are surrounded by us aren't retail, are they? They're all residential.
I thought there were a few commercial along Church Ranch near 100 and.
Frightmare, maybe Frightmare will start selling that or the.
That would enhance the experience.
Or mushrooms.
Found a new. Well, that would go well with the experience.
Any further, okay, great, okay. And then the last measure, which staff has recommended position, similar to the last one, is the Highland Hills Park and Recreation District ballot 6A. Again, they are seeking to retain all of the revenues, their revenues. So again, under the general finance piece, we would support that, again, being a neighboring community, that generally any additional revenues for them would also benefit Westminster residents. So we would also make that recommendation and leave it to your discretion on what you'd like to do.
Councilor Seymour?
I support staff's recommendation.
This is with Highland Hills. I do not.
Oh, and I do not.
I do.
Support. I'm not sure. Haven't looked that much into it because I'm not in Highland Hills, so.
That's me.
Again, it's really okay, the debrucing.
Yeah, then I oppose that. Principle.
It's up to you, Mayor.
I have not paid attention to it because I don't live there. But to go along with how I voted on the other side of the aisle, I would say no.
Okay. Again, do you want to adopt then an oppose to this or take a neutral stance?
I'm still an opposed.
Okay, and I'm opposed to.
I'm neutral.
I'd rather leave a neutral position. I just wouldn't want to support it.
Neutral.
Neutral.
I think you hear neutral.
Neutral. Okay. Those are all the positions that we have recommended. Is there any other questions on any of the ballot measures?
Well, the one of the 21 is a good measure. It basically reduces the income tax for the state.
I hope if wherever we put this out at, we give the education so they just don't listen to us, but they do their own homework.
Correct. And that is normally what we do, is obviously put all of the information together. I mean, they have it, the residents will have it here. What we would recommend, of course, with your feedback and direction, is we could post, we could adjust and have this show what your positions are and put this on the legislative policy section of the city's website. And we could attach all of the Tabor notices and all of the Blue Book pieces so that you all could drive people to the website on your social media, and also we would have everything in one place for them. That's one way we can do it. We've historically also done resolutions where we would bring this back and have you all adopt a resolution.
I want people to make up their own minds with their with the correct information that they get. They don't have to listen to me. I want them to make up their own mind.
Okay. Okay. So to be clear, do you want us to just post anything with all that information and what decisions you've made on those pieces?
If they accidentally throw away their blue book, they can read it. We'll just have to do the Adams side and the Jekyll side.
Can you be clear that there was not, can you say like full support or 4-3 or 5-2, or how does that work?
We typically put a majority of council chose to adopt this position. We don't, we could put.
Didn't we discuss that in our council protocols?
It's in your lobby.
Yeah, 'cause that was on letters that we signed for certain things, specific things, but on lobbying protocols, we didn't.
Yeah, that's what I was.
Yeah, you can add that to this year's discussion. Is that like an opposed maybe? Or an opposed light? Yeah.
So that's how it would be characterized unless there was other direction.
It doesn't say unanimous, so they get it.
Majority is fine.
Okay. All right, we will proceed and get that posted as quickly as possible.
Is that all you have?
That is all.
Thank you.
I did my deadline. I said 10.
You did?
Take my honey and run.
Don't trip. Don't leave that honey all over the stairs.
I know you did.
All right, everyone.
Good night.
Hi, Obie.